and welcome to Better Than Mario Brothers, the number 4 rated film podcast in all of Uganda.
Last week.
Last week. That'll do me. Look, I'll take the small wins. Thank you, Uganda.
Cheers.
Yeah, so that was lovely. Just to go off topic before we even start today, listeners, Mark emailed me yesterday, let me know that we charted number 4 in Uganda. And for me, that was just a real kind of throwback to the nice, nostalgic, pleasant times of the internet in the mid-90s when I first joined, where it was like, my first reaction was, fucking hell, people listen to us in Uganda. Of course they do, because it's the fucking internet. But I don't think like that. I'm just concerned with what's going on in my little corner of the globe. And I'm like, oh, fuck, yeah, of course. We're reaching Uganda. So it just threw me back to that time when the internet wasn't full of opinionated arseholes. Having said that, here we go, diving in on Killer Sofa. I am Chris Bolton. With me, as always, my partner in podcasting, Mr. Mark Williams.
Hello.
And yeah, this episode, if you don't know what we do on this show by now, then you just go and listen to some of our earlier ones first.
Yeah, take a leaf out of Uganda's book.
Yeah, because believe me, this one's going to be a doozy.
Before we start on this one, right, I went into this not knowing anything about it, as we tend to do. I watched it yesterday. If I'd watched it last week, it would have been free on Prime. This week, I had to pay £3.50 for the privilege. So, fuck you, Amazon.
Snooze, you lose, dude.
I know. I don't do shit early, you know that. So I ended up paying for it. One thing I did notice, and for anything we have to say about the film, the cast is also the crew, is also the every fucking thing else. So hats off to them for that.
Look, I didn't.
I mean, we've done that. We've been there, and fucking salute them for that.
I didn't do any research about this film whatsoever. The only reason we are looking at this film is because we happen to be just kicking around on Amazon Prime looking for stuff to add to our list. And actually, this has been recommended to me before as well by Amazon after watching some of the previous stuff that we've watched. And we're kicking around and it popped up again. I was like, that sounds perfect for the show. We have to do it. So other than that, I didn't watch a trailer. I've done no research. I just went with, look, there's a film called Killer Sofa. And, just seems perfect for this podcast. Where, as I say, if you haven't listened to us before, this is a podcast where we just basically find the best of the worst films and compare them to the original Mario Brothers film, see if they're better or worse. So this seemed like a shoo-in. It doesn't surprise me that the cast were also the crew. And actually, I've actually got quite a lot of good things to say about this film, if I'm honest. I do have some pretty large issues with it, but I did find myself really enjoying this. But we do have to bear in mind, as we say many times on these shows, making films is fucking hard. And in watching this, I did kind of definitely get that indie vibe, as you say. We've been there, done that ourselves, and it did feel like that. It did feel like it was an all hands to the pumps production. You could clearly see that some of the sets have literally just been put up on the day. Like there are, I'll point them out as we go through, but there are sets here which are literally just pieces of chipboard nailed onto a timber frame.
Well, I mean, I don't normally watch the credits when we do this show, mainly because by the time we get to the end of the film, I've lost the will to live. But I sat through this. I was wondering if it was that level of indie job whereby the cast was the crew and all the rest of it. And the main bearded dude, the old guy, he wrote, directed, and produced it as well.
Oh wow! Okay.
So
just as well because he's a shit actor.
He's a shit actor. Yeah. The leading lady also did. I think she was also the producer. So there's loads of stuff like that all the way through it. So no, if you watch the credits are only 3 minutes, and it's the same dozen names all the way through. So I mean that I did appreciate that. I mean, fair play to that. That was good. That was appreciated. But also in the credits, one thing I did spot is that it was all filmed on location at a theatre.
Okay,
so they've just got a theatre space and gone, right, we'll just whip up as many sets as we can.
You can see that, and I don't mean that as a knock, but
I mean, it's one of those, for the most part, you think, right, they can get away with that. Like the apartments look different, or the homes all look different enough that it doesn't matter. It's the same bit of chipboard, just the other side of it, and they've turned it around and used a couple of flats and things like that. That it doesn't show it. That it doesn't show up and go, right, okay, this is fucking amateur hour. We've got 50 quid in the pocket. Well, let's go make a feature.
No,
because nobody does that.
Not at all. I was actually expecting this to look far worse than it did. I was expecting the performances to be far worse than they were.
Mm.
Look. It's just the old guy for me. I
There were a
haven't
couple
written
of
down any
line
names.
deliveries. I haven't written which lines they were, but there were a couple of line deliveries from the two lead girls, and from one of her suitors. Was it Ralph?
I don't. Do you know? I've made
Um,
loads of notes, but one thing I haven't actually done because I didn't do any research, which is unusual for me, is I haven't logged down the cast, crew, or character names. And the reason for that, I will be frank, the reason for that is because I was actually really engrossed in this and really enjoyed it for the 80 odd minutes and
yeah,
change that
I
it
mean,
is.
yeah, we'll
So
come into that now. I think it was the guy who played Ralph who was the what he's the one who um planted the spy cams in her apartment and met his grisly demise.
right, yeah.
I'm sure he was Ralph, but yeah, there's a line that he gives, and you're like, ooh, fuck, that's straight out of drama school.
Yeah, I mean there is say
There's a bit of that going on, and
the
it's
rabbi
not.
especially is very much like that. But look, the performances are functional. Even the bad ones,
They're
I think,
functional
are
and they're consistent. I
functional.
think that's probably the best thing is that they are
Yeah,
consistent across the board.
yeah. I mean, as you say, there are a few line deliveries in there, and actually, there are a few absolute clankers of lines in the script as well. But by and
Yes.
large, there's nothing like we're not talking Battlefield Earth here.
No,
There's
and this would have been made on like four beans and a
yeah,
tin of beer.
but there's nothing that's horrendously bad. It's all
Yeah.
passable, and actually, we'll talk about the film. We'll go through the film as we always do. But actually, were it not for some very poor story decisions in the third act,
Yeah.
I would probably find myself recommending this film to people. I
I've
enjoyed it that much.
I've got to be honest. I sat here, so I watched it last night. I sat here. Kids were in bed. Tori was watching something else. So I sat here in the office with the lights off, with my headphones on, and the sound mix is pretty poor when you've got it in surround sound and cranked right up, which doesn't surprise me given the type of film it is.
Yeah, that's budgetary. I mean,
I mean, it's consistent. I think it's mixed. Some of the levels at the beginning are a bit iffy, but they kind of find their groove with the edit as well, and they really get into it, and it does start to pick up as well. So that was good. But yeah, I was the same. I was sat here for 80 minutes, and I got to sort of the 60-ish minute mark. I thought, okay, this isn't going too badly, and then Act Three happens.
yeah, I was exactly the same. To the point where it's not so much of this isn't going too badly. I was actually really enjoying it, and yeah, some of the performances are not great. Some of the dialogue's a bit cheesy.
Yeah,
But it's called Killer Sofa. Like, look, I
yeah,
fully know what I am letting
yeah.
myself in for,
Now
and moreover,
that
it is indie as well.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that said, that was my main problem with the entire thing. It's not a fucking sofa, it's a chair.
no, but Killer Chair doesn't sound as good,
Well,
nor does Killer Recliner.
yeah,
So
originally it was supposed to be called something like my dead lover, my lazy boy, or something like that. But they didn't want to be sued, so they changed the name.
well, I mean that's smart, but it's also a mouthful of a title.
Yeah.
And titles, for peek
Titles are a
behind the
bitch.
titles are a bitch, and also just peek behind the curtain industry wise. One of the things we learned very quickly during the process of trying to sell our film is that titles are more important than that. It doesn't matter how good the fucking film is.
Yeah.
People are concerned about how long your title is, what letter it starts with, and how snappy it is.
Yeah.
That unfortunately is the business of film.
Yeah.
So a title that long, no chance. Whereas
Well, I mean,
Killer
it's
Sofa
not even
straight
as it's
away,
not catchy like Faster Pussycat Kill Kill, is it? It's
no. Whereas
yeah.
Killer Sofa, I mean, look, it worked on me. I saw the title, I was like, I'm
Well,
watching
yeah.
that.
Well,
Killer Sofa.
that's it. I mean, job done straight away. I mean, the again on the production notes here, the main character being the chair cost the production team 100 New Zealand dollars, which I think is like 40 pence or something.
I mean, that's impressive because actually I think one of the great triumphs of this film is that chair.
Yeah,
Like it's fucking superb. It's like to take an inanimate object like that and to breathe that much life into it through the application of two strategically placed buttons and a
yeah,
crease.
yeah,
And then just the way you're shooting it and moving it about like that, it really feels like that chair is alive.
yeah.
They do a phenomenal job of that, and it's every bit as ridiculous as
Oh
as
yeah,
you would expect
absolutely.
it to be. Which they don't shy away from. And,
No,
and
they
that's one of
know
the
what
great
this film
strengths of
is.
this as well. Yeah, they absolutely, well, they do and they don't, I
In
think.
places, I
Yeah,
mean,
it does have a confused tone, which, as we get to Act 3 at the end, that's the big problem with it. But definitely, whenever the sofa's just being a fucking murderous piece of furniture,
yeah,
and they're trying to shoot it in a sinister light, like they do it amazingly well. They
they
fully
do.
commit to it.
I mean, I've made notes this week, which never happens, and I've lost my post-its.
And I didn't. We're in Bizarro land, listeners.
Yes, I mean, I made some notes going through, and one of the things I did spot is that very early on, when the first time you see the chair, it's very much set up that you can see its face.
Yeah, oh yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's, yeah, as I say, strategically placed buttons, the crease, and you're just expecting that mouth to move. And I think part of the joy of it is that for the majority of the film, you see it physically moving, you see it being altered in location. You don't see the chair doing anything other than being moved.
No, and
So
that's,
I mean, the temptation would have been to make the fucking crease Audrey 2 and have it speaking and all the rest of
yeah.
it.
The fact that they don't, that was a very clever decision. Obviously, there's budgetary decisions there as well.
Yeah, and there's an alleged plot reason for it as well.
There is an alleged plot reason for it as well. But moreover, it does what good horror should do, which is encourage you to fill the gaps in.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
there were moments where I was going like, hang on, how the fuck does the chair get? But then, the primary hurdle to get over with that is, how does the chair actually move of its own accord? But then there will be shots later on where you see it kind of stood upright. It's almost
Yeah,
like a fucking transformer. But you
yeah,
don't ever need to see it do that. They show it in that position, and you go, right, okay,
yeah.
fine,
And
I'll
that's
go
it.
with
The
it.
way the way they shoot it, because you don't see it move. Christ, probably till about 2/3 of the way through.
Yeah.
Every time it moves before that, it's a cutaway. It's like they did it in Doctor Who. They had these gargoyle type things called weeping angels, and they could only move when you weren't looking at them.
Right.
So you'd blink and it would move, and you turn your
Okay.
head and it would move again, and it would be getting closer and closer and closer. Every time you cut back to it, it's not moving again, but it's closer, and it's in a slightly more menacing pose. And that's exactly what they did here. Is that you looked at it and it was still. Then you cut away, and you go back to it a second later, and it's moved. It's closer. Now, how the fucking gay boyfriend, how he didn't notice it moved. That was a bit
Yeah.
fucking no. That was a bit much, but
There are some massive logic gaps. There is a lot of suspension of disbelief required. But again,
it's a possessed chair. Of course, there's
yeah,
fucking logic gaps.
again, the film is called Killer Sofa. Like, I'll go with that. As long as the story hangs together, character motivation and things like that. Look, as long as you get me to where the story needs to be, when you call Killer Sofa, I'm going to go along for the ride. My problem, which we'll discuss when we get to the end, is I don't think they got me to where the story needed to be, or actually they almost did. And then they screwed the pooch. But anyway,
Yeah,
listen,
I think before we move into it, I think the biggest, you alluded to it, the biggest problem we had is story-wise. I think they didn't quite understand what story they were telling. There were too many moving parts.
It's exactly that.
There were too many bits they tried to fill in, and no, they were only 81 minutes, I think it is. So when you take credits off that, that's 75-ish minutes. It's a decent length for what it is. Any longer, I think they'd have struggled to sustain any pace with it, and I think it moved along relatively well. But once they introduced, they introduced some of it quite early. The stuff with the mystic and the various demonic bits, and they had it was like a YouTube blog about a guy talking about demons and shit like that. That all it worked okay, but it didn't really go anywhere. They didn't need any of that. But I think a lot of it was filler. I think a lot of it was to get it over that hour mark.
Yeah, they absolutely didn't need any of that. All of that, to me, felt like it had been half-assed as well. It felt like they didn't actually understand the rules of their own logic, and they were kind of making up as they go along. Like the research hadn't and the work hadn't gone into that. And when that becomes so important at the end, then that caused me some problems. But before we even get to that becoming important, I think there was a much better story that they kind of half went with. And like I say, it's almost like they did an original cut and went, but hang on a minute, that's only about 60 minutes long.
We need to flesh this out a bit.
What are we going to do? And it's unfortunate because actually I'd have rather watched a 60-minute cut. I'm trying to avoid spoilers. I don't know why, because if you listen to this, you're bound to have seen the film. But we like to go through it in narrative order. So we'll get to it when we get to it. But I feel like I would have rather watched a 60-minute film that ended at the first natural end point of the film and would have actually then had something to say, and I think been more menacing and certainly more of a horror film.
Well, I mean, not only that, up until that point, it was rife for a sequel as well.
It absolutely was, yeah. It absolutely was. So yeah, I do think they dropped the ball in a few places. Overall, though, I do like it. But anyway, I haven't made loads of notes this week. As I said, I've got one or two to help us get through the narrative of it.
I'm just trying to work out where I put mine.
I've not done my usual kind of in-depth research because I genuinely was enjoying the fuck out of this.
Mine. I've got 8 post-it notes.
Wow. Okay.
Which is high praise for me. Which it translates. I wrote them out earlier just to make sense of them. And there's like 45 points.
Well, I've got 2.5 pages, which is next to nothing for me. So,
yeah.
I mean, to get started, then the very first thing I wrote straight under the title, Killer Sofa, is that, like, look, you're gonna call your film Killer Sofa, and the picture on the cover is of a killer sofa as well. Like, I am yours to lose.
Yeah.
Like you were starting
right there.
You were starting 10 out of 10 up here with me. So, like, it's not about what you could do well. It's about every time you do something wrong, I'm knocking you down a notch because I'm already in. Like, Killer Sofa, you've got me. I'm all over this. So yeah, and the first time we see the sofa, then we're in this kind of a cult ritual in a garage.
Yeah.
And you get all of these kind of crash shots. This opening is not done very well at all.
No,
this is some of the
this really put me off.
Yeah, me too.
So we were talking via message last night, and I sort of pointed out the fact it wasn't free anymore, which more for me.
Yeah.
But I think the last one I sent you before it started was "This is weird already," and this was the bit I was on where they're in. It's so again they've made this set, they've lit it. It's nice and dim. It's nice and dank. They've got the plastic up on the walls. They've got the pictures which get splattered in blood. It's really atmospheric, but it just doesn't look very good, and it doesn't. It's not really clear what's going on.
No, it's not clear what's going on at all.
And even if you don't know where it's going, you still need to understand what it is. And I think that was the first problem.
I agree. I think there was a fine line to be trod here, where there is a version of this story where this is very important.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with having it. Obviously, you don't want to show your hand too early, but we do at least have to understand what is happening. And that's not explained at all, nor is it communicated particularly well, because there's just a lot. Or basically, all you get from this is there's some occult shit and a sofa. Now, having said that, from the first time we see the sofa, this very first shot, he looks pissed off, and I am all in already. Like, the sofa looks amazing from the word go.
I think the lighting on it helps, but because it's so dark in the design, you can just make out a little glint in the eyes, and you can make out the crease where the mouth is.
It's great.
It really is good.
It's great. But again, for a low budget indie film, and when you say what they spent on this prop as well, like, if you're going to call it Killer Sofa, if you're going to spend your money anyway, you need to spend it on the sofa. We talked about that with Jack Frost and how the money needed to go on the snowman and stuff. Like, the money needs to be spent on the sofa, and like, I don't know how much they needed to spend, but it's there on screen. They did what they needed to do. Like, front and center, the sofa is the star of the show, and they know that. And then after this occult stuff, the next time we see him, the sofa's being delivered, and it's all chained up. And
it's so you get this bit where they go into so you get people turn up to the storage unit to collect it, and they're struggling to move it because it's so big. The chair bites the girl. That was really funny as well. And the hands get caught in the mechanism. It works really well. That was really good. And then so you get that, and then you see them. They cart this chair off, and then it's on the back of a wagon.
Yeah, and it just looks like a giant pissed off Muppet.
Yeah.
And I'm all for that, because we clearly haven't gone for some sort of digital effect or anything like that. This is a physical thing, and the effort has got. There's so much character in it because it's a physical chair that they've attached a face to.
Yes.
And they've thought about how they're going to make that face look natural, like it belongs to the chair, but it's still slightly menacing.
Yeah, and when we come to the bit with Ralph later on, there's some really good character work they do with the chair, despite the fact the chair doesn't do any fucking thing.
Yeah, excellent. The chair is definitely a character in its own right, and that is the absolute triumph of this film.
Yeah.
The chair gets delivered. There's some again, what feels like filler, because the chair first goes to the wrong place, and the rabbi has to say, "Oh no, that's not my chair." Huh? What? How? Right. Yeah. How does that happen? And then, moreover, when we then smash cut to the next scene and the chair's miraculously in the right place, how did it get there? Because nobody told him where to put the chair, and it looks like the same fucking building.
Well, this is the thing. This is what I didn't. It seems to be they kind of talked around it with the boyfriend because he lives he lives a couple of doors down. I get that. That was fine. They wrote around that. But the note which said deliver to Francesca had her fucking address on it.
Yeah.
So unless it's a different building, which it can't have been because Francesca's friend Maxie used to drive there, so it can't be the same fucking building. Then how did they end up at the rabbi's house and then end up at the right place? Now that's a huge set of coincidences. But
Yeah.
even more so, we do this jump cut to the next scene where it's at the right place, and the rabbi's still there. Has he
Yeah.
followed them? Why would he have gone with it?
He just doesn't belong, does he? This
No.
is the thing. He doesn't belong, and it feels like he's been shoehorned in.
Yeah. Which
You know?
again, you can't really say because he wrote the fucking thing.
Yeah. I think
it's they've gone right. We need this character in as many shots as we can.
I think what you have is that actually later on the rabbi becomes Joe Exposition.
Yeah.
But it appears that that's been moved very early into the story and bulked up.
Yes.
And I know for a fact, I haven't gone through my notes yet, but I remember writing down that actually there was a natural place to put that at sort of mid-act 2.
Yeah.
But it comes much earlier, and it feels like they're trying to front load all this information because they've just all of a sudden shoehorned this extra character, and he just doesn't feel like he belongs. We don't need him at all.
No, and I think the reason they've done it is I think it's to flesh it out because they've gone, oh right, we need exposition, so we need this stuff with the YouTube vlogger and talk about the demons and all this sort of shit. But we need a conduit for that. We need a way into that. But I don't want to rewrite what I've already done.
Yeah.
So rather than change things, I'm just going to shoehorn this in and make this character far more important than they were and give them far more to do.
Yeah, and you know, actually, part of the problem then is when they try and shoehorn that in. We did say there were two potentially different stories here, and actually, all of the demonic stuff is not needed whatsoever. No. This is, and you know, even if you go down the line of it being a demonically possessed sofa, okay, even if you go down that line, narratively, it's far more interesting for us as an audience to know that because it's called Kill a Sofa, and they shoot the sofa in such a way that we know the sofa's doing it. But it's far more interesting for everybody in the world to not know that. And a killer sofa is ridiculous. So why would they think that's a thing? And then especially when you bring in characters like Inspector Gravy, great fucking name.
As opposed to Inspector Grape.
Yeah. When you've got a fucking, yeah, I know, Grape and Gravy, brilliant names. I mean it. Like, I fucking hate doing names, and this is clearly somebody sat in a kitchen going, "What can I call him? What can I call him? What can I call him?" It's either Bisto or Gravy because that's what I've got in front of me.
Yeah.
So
if you're going to do that, if you're going to be that fucking tactless about it, go down the route of going with a pair, go for Grape and Grain. You know, just give it something that that people will bounce off.
I like it. I like Grape and Gravy. I like. But yeah, you know, when you've got detectives on the scene like that, there is a much more interesting film when they are then trying to piece these murders together, particularly then when it presents our lead as the main suspect. And I say several times later on, how is she not the main suspect? Like, she connects all of these people together, we've got detectives being sympathetic to her.
Well, not only that, there's a point, and I won't give away when it is, but there's a point where somebody dies, somebody very close to her dies, and they text her, say, "Can you come to the station?"
Yes, yeah.
No, you fucking arrest her.
Yeah, I know.
You pick her up in a squad car. You don't text her because they text her, but then they rang Maxie to ask if she'd come down.
I know. She's clearly the prime suspect.
Yeah, she's clearly guilty as all hell.
It's unfucking believable. But anyway, I think that's a much more interesting version of the film. Whether you want the demonic stuff or not, it's much more interesting if we don't get the exposition about what a Dybbuk is and what the sofa is.
Yeah.
Until much later on, when Gravy's eliminated every natural possible suspect.
But not only that, I mean, they've given Gravy this backstory. His wife's left him taking the kids. He's getting a divorce. He's drinking, all this sort of stuff. Make him fucking crazy. Make it that he knows it's the sofa, but nobody believes him. How many times have we seen that before? He has to go out of his way to prove something that's blatantly obvious, but nobody wants to hear. Yeah, make him sound crazy. Make it that his career's on the line because everyone's fed up with his shit.
Yeah, because they think he's a crazy old drunk, and so it's a much more interesting story. You know, there is a version of this film, and I don't know whether it was ever intended to be this or not. I suspect it was because I don't think you write something. as heavily connoted as this without knowing you're doing it. But there is a version of this film as well which is very male gazy, purposely so.
Yeah.
There's a version of this film which has a lot to say about the male gaze, and there's a version of this film which demonizes the patriarchy quite heavily. And that is still in there, but it gets lost then amongst all of this demonic stuff. Yeah. And I feel like it started off as a much tighter concept. And there was a group of people, particularly if cast and crew were the same, there was a group of people that had a really tight concept. And then all of a sudden, it just expanded and expanded and expanded and got bigger and bigger and bigger because they could. And they kind of maybe lost touch. There's no singular voice in this anymore. There's no singular vision that says, actually, we were saying something about about, you know, the state of our culture at the moment and our attitudes towards women. And because that is all in there. And,
definitely.
You know, horror especially is a phenomenal genre to be doing things like that. You know, really good horror almost always have something to say if you look for it, because it allows you to demonize the patriarchy, for instance, quite literally demonize the patriarchy and go to places with it that you can't in a drama or a comedy, because you can do horrific things and paint them under the guise of, but it's a demon. So you can literally do that.
I mean, and with the first time we meet Francesca, she's dancing. We've got the really awful singer who's also somebody else in the crew, but again, the guy wrote
the band. Sorry, I really like the band.
Not really my shtick.
Right up my street.
Yeah, it wasn't really my shtick, but
over it.
It was a bit right. The theme tune, sing the theme tune. But the first time we see her, she's dancing in this room on her own. Maxie's there watching her. The band is singing, and the spotlight's just on her. That's something. Again, that ties into this thing of she's constantly she's constantly being watched. She's the center of attention, all this sort of stuff. And then we get the conversation. So Gravy and Grape are there, and they're talking to her about Federico, who's the guy whose feet were found. The dog was playing with them. That we saw that being hacked up in the beginning. And there's a very telling thing in there where she's talking about, I don't know what it is. I seem to have this effect on men. They become devoted, and a friend says they're obsessed with others. Going down the line, look, it's not healthy. It's not right. No, they're not devoted. They're stalking you.
Yeah. So
there's a really nice comment there. And then we even get Gravy trying to normalize when they're talking about. They're asking if any of them were ever violent with her, and they almost. It's almost like he's trying to normalize it, and then she's sort of saying, "Oh well, these things happen when you're in bed and stuff, and in throes of passion, all this sort of stuff." And it's almost like they say that this is what women do. They tend to sort of blame themselves. There's this very obvious victim blaming thing. And
yes,
it's a really powerful comment on that, and it's done in it's done in such a subtle way as well. You know, it's a case of, well, yeah, that's just what happens, and it's this whole, whether it's an element of gaslighting or whatever it is, but it's just like, well, yeah, that's just kind of what happens. I'm used to being punched in the face and slapped and
it's
all this stuff, which is it's just completely normalized.
Yeah, it's definitely
really powerful.
Yeah, it is. There is a lot to be said here, and yeah, through that thing of the, you know, as we later learn that, you know, the debug means that actually people are going to be attracted to her, and it is like a supernatural force and what have you. And again, you can do that in horror. Then you can say, well, actually, you know, it's not acceptable to go, it's my fault and everything. You know, these men are, you know, not in control of their actions because actually
it was a demon that was luring them. And
but you could make that comment in the interim, you know, and they do go to quite. Again, it appears to me now the likelihood of this is actually there's been a practical decision that everybody's just wearing what they've got, right? But it appears to me like they're very careful with her wardrobe as well. You know, I couldn't help but look for this because I picked up on that same as you did in the first scene. You know, it is watching her dance does almost feel voyeuristic the way they shoot her in there. She's got this very flowing, clingy dress that you can practically see through, and it feels very voyeuristic. But then,
and again, it's a vivid red as well. So again, it's instantly attracts your attention because she's very dark. She's got that the very dark hair and the dark complexion. It stands out straight away. You are immediately drawn to her shoulders and the shape of her chest and the shape of her hips. So it's all very well done.
It is, but then they go to great lengths then throughout the majority of her day-to-day life within the film then to dress her, and I wouldn't say conservatively, but in a relatively I would say, kind of casual manner. Then,
Yeah,
you know,
it's again, it's I'd say it's probably a case of you need to wear this sort of thing. We're not going to tell you what it is because we don't know what you've got, but no, we haven't got a wardrobe budget. But yeah, it's almost, I say it's even more so than casual. It's comfortable. So just wear what you would
yes,
wear
yeah,
during the day.
exactly.
You're
And
not dressing
so,
up for anybody. You're not seeing
no,
anybody. You're not going anywhere. Put your fucking trackies and your t-shirt on,
it,
whatever.
exactly. And so, yes, they are tight, and yes, some of the shorts are short. But again, it removes that argument of, well, look at the way she was dressed,
Hmm.
you know, and it almost feels again like they're purposely challenging us on that.
Yeah.
Almost, it's like it's not acceptable for men to just stalk her, because I mean, this isn't acceptable anyway. Please don't misquote me on this, listeners. But it's not acceptable to say, oh yeah, but she had a tiny skirt on and her tits were hanging out, because they aren't.
Hmm.
So there's no open invitation for any of this male attention that she doesn't want.
Yeah.
You know, it's unfortunate that we go to the place where the boyfriend's clearly a closeted homosexual, and that's why he isn't affected by her.
Yeah.
That's really unfortunate. I feel
Yeah,
like
it
all the
is.
good you did with on the one
It's
hand, you've undone on the other.
the problem I had with it, other than the fact that yeah, he's clearly homosexual and clearly everyone's in denial. But the two of them are in denial.
Yeah,
But everybody else is like, dude, he's gay. And
yeah,
it's unfortunate because it's done in such a way that the suggestion is it's a bad thing.
yes, very
And
much so.
it's bad because he's not a normal man, because he's not attracted to her in the way that every other man has
That's
been.
that's the implication, isn't it? And
Yeah.
and again, I feel like actually that's something that's written in later, because there's probably an original cut where he's just a douchebag,
Hmm.
and then once they've added all of this occult stuff and she's irresistible, they've got to have. But then, how is he such a douchebag to her?
Yeah.
Oh, we'll make him gay because her powers won't work on a gay man. That's really, really
It's
distasteful
unfortunate.
and unfortunate. And
It
it's a
is.
shame, because there is a lot, like I say, there is a lot of good I feel being done in
There
this
is,
film
and I
as well.
think, and yeah, it's interesting you said that, because that was one of the notes I made. Is that you get the bit where he goes out and she says, "No, stay in, don't go out, don't whatever she says," and he's like, "No, I've got to go." He's a stag do or something, and he's
Yeah,
got to go out, and she then stays in. She spends the night on the chair and has the weird sexy dreams and all this sort of stuff, and then wakes up in the morning and there's like a fucking trail of flowers and there's homemade biscuits and all this sort of shit, and he immediately takes credit for it.
yeah,
And it's like, yeah, that's the character he was meant to be.
yeah, definitely, definitely. Now,
But
also though, yeah, like that's definitely the character he was meant to be, and then they just found realized that wouldn't work, and so they had to make him a homosexual.
yeah, the internal logic then failed.
Well, yeah, but the internal logic fails anyway, because
Yeah.
I'm going to skip forward slightly in the notes to get to that. But yeah, like, I'm sorry if I come home and somebody's done that for my wife, first thing I'm going is like, right,
Who's here?
where did they come from? Who's been here while I haven't?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
you know,
where
you
is he?
don't.
I'm gonna fucking kill
Yeah,
him.
you don't just go like, oh yeah, yeah, I did that. Yeah, I'll take the brownie points.
Well, yeah,
No.
because there's two ways that goes. Either she's done it for him,
Yeah.
in which case he's going to be far more appreciative. But clearly, what's happened here, she believes he's done it for her.
Yeah.
So he can either take credit for it and get laid,
Yep.
or he can go, I didn't do that. What are you on about? He has no incentive to claim that he did it.
No, none at all. I've got a lot to say about this scene actually, so maybe we'll go through this scene when we get to it. I think I've just got one or two things
Oh, I jumped
to
ahead, have I?
go on to first. I think so. Well, not massively,
Okay.
but there's just one or two things I was going to say. Like I've got, we get a look. She gives a look over to the sofa after they have their initial fight,
Hmm.
which is just incredible. It's hilarious. It's as
Yeah.
if the two of them are communicating non-verbally.
Yeah.
And then when he does go out, she goes and has a shower. And the friend walks in, and there's a fucking phenomenal jump scare. Like, it's
Yes.
excellent.
Yeah,
It's
with the
really
clown mask.
with the
Yeah.
clown mask. It's really well executed, really well shot. Like,
Yeah.
absolutely phenomenal jump scare. Like,
Yeah, I'd forgotten
grade
about
A
that.
horror work.
That was really good. That was really good. And but again, the thing that jumped into my mind, and I didn't make a note of it, but it's again, you know me and the logic gaps. I know why they've done it. They've done it so they can see her in the shower when the camera's running.
Yep.
But who showers with the door 6 inches open? You're just gonna flood the fucking place.
Well, exactly.
So I mean that was that was the thing that went through my head, and then you had the actual jump, which was really good. So obviously you're expecting the sofa at this point. So this fucking clown.
Yeah,
So where the hell did that come from? And
yeah,
then it's the friend, and so that was really good. I really appreciated that. That worked really well. I'd forgotten
really,
about it.
really, really good jump scare. And then we see this. He's going, and we see the sofa in the window, looking out of the window, which
Yeah,
again, absolutely hilarious.
yeah.
Seeing the sofa peeking out from
Well,
behind the
that's the thing because
curtains.
I mean, at this point, it's always they've not made a point of making it a face. I mean, you can tell it's a face, but they've not made
Yeah,
anything of it. But at this point, the way it's framed in the window, it's the same as you would have if you were shooting back up, looking at somebody looking out the window. You could see three-quarters of the face of leaning off the side and just trying to be a little bit subtle about it and a
it's
little bit out of shot. It's
it's
perfect.
hilarious. It's brilliant, and it adds so much character to that sofa just in the
Yeah,
way that he's been framed. I mean, like, yes, this is a film called Killer Sofa, and yes, I'm gonna complain about a few things with it, but if you want a fucking lesson on mise en scène,
mm.
like just look at this. You got the backlit window.
Yeah,
It is Hitchcockian. You're on a slight Dutch. He's
yeah.
peering out through the window. He's all backlit. You can see the expression on the face, like it's telling you everything you need to know about
Yeah.
that sofa as a character.
And you do get it throughout the film as well. And they
Yeah,
as they start moving it around, and you see it moving, you get a little bit more of it as well. The character, I think, the, for all the ragging on it I've done already, and for all I've got to say later on as well, that sofa is absolutely spot on.
genius, genius.
There are very few missteps with it.
Yeah. So then we get back inside, and again, I know probably this. Okay, so they've got limited areas they can shoot in, and perhaps the kitchen doesn't lend itself very well to shooting. But who the actual fuck? Who in the world makes a cuppa by bringing the entire kettle full of water and the cup to the chair you're going to sit in, and
Yeah,
then pouring a cup of tea? Who
yeah,
does
that's
that?
yeah. I mean, it's a small
What?
space anyway. Even if the location doesn't lend itself to that, it's a small enough space that logically she would leave the kettle where it fucking is.
And there is no reason for the kettle to be there. It's not Chekhov's kettle. She doesn't use it for anything else. So just
Well, yeah,
have a walk over with a mug.
yeah. To have a walk into shot,
Have
having
a
made the
mug.
coffee and with a steaming mug.
What? I don't understand.
No, I don't either.
So that was the first thing that really brought me out to the film, because I was looking at it going, what the fuck? Why did she make it? Who does that?
Yeah,
But then they get me right back in, because then we get the sofa wet dream, and
yeah,
she starts fingering the various orifices of the sofa as
yeah,
though she's playing with herself, and I was just creased.
yeah,
This absolutely folded me in two. It's hilarious, and it's meant to be. They know what they're doing. You don't
yeah,
accidentally have her slip two fingers behind the fucking release lever
yeah,
and hook her fingers around. Like, it's fucking hilarious. Genius stuff.
yeah,
So that was really good. And then we end this scene then, and I don't think she sees it. I think she walks out of frame, but then we see like we later find it's a Dybbuk, but there's like a ghostly figure stood behind the sofa, and it's ever so subtle. We don't linger
yeah,
on it for too long, but there is just a ghostly figure stood behind the sofa, and again, it's an absolutely brilliant scare. Like, it adds
yeah,
a lot of dread, and all of a sudden we start to understand what's going on. It's like, oh, there's a ghost in the sofa.
yeah,
That's one version of the story. And so I'm like, okay, well, that's where we're going then. The sofa's possessed. The guy got killed, and now he's possessed the sofa.
yeah,
That's where I think we're going. Fine. I'm on board with that. And the communication is excellent. It's creepy. Like it a lot. And so I think it's here now that the boyfriend comes back before we
yes.
get
It's
to
the
the
following.
interview room, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's the following morning. He's
Yeah,
come back, taking credit for that. She's then gone out, and he's at home cooking.
that's right. That's right. Yeah, she's at the interview room.
Yeah,
I think is the thing. Well, but before that, he comes back. We've already discussed this
yeah,
issue with the cookies and stuff like that.
yeah,
But the major logic gap I have with this is the cookies, the flour that the Dybbuks use to paralyze people is on the
yeah,
plate with the cookies. And the suggestion is that the sofa's made these cookies for her, and she's going to eat the flour, and she's going to get paralyzed.
yeah,
Except he picks up the cookie and eats the flour, and all it does is make his arm drop like he's had a fucking sudden case of palsy.
yeah,
And he does do that. He drops his arm and he locks it. So he communicates that to us.
yeah,
He doesn't seem particularly bothered or panicked by it. He just says he thinks he's probably drunker than he thinks he is.
yeah.
But later on, it manages to completely paralyze people. Logic gap number one.
Well, I mean, but I think later on when we see it, there's a lot more of it
Okay, I'll give you that one then. I'll
because
go
it's the
with it.
tea, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I mean,
Yes, it's the tea. Yeah,
so
but then
the insinuation being that they're drinking it rather than crushing it up, but also you keep on no, she keeps on topping up the tea,
yeah.
so there's
Okay.
that to it.
But the
But
bigger
yeah,
the bigger logic gap I have with it is if these have been made for her and she is a dibbuck, and this gets all kind of confused towards the end anyway, and we'll touch on it more when we get to the end. But if she is basically the bloodline of the dibbuck then, and the dibbuck is in her, then why would you want to paralyze her?
well, yeah, I didn't get that either. It didn't
Well,
kind of make
it doesn't
sense.
make any sense. But then later on, this seems to be a suggestion that actually she's not, and she just potentially could be a host, and the
Yeah,
Dybbuk needs to get in her, or her. But then that makes her no different to anyone else. So how does she have all the magic sexual attraction powers? So huge logic gap there, which again is totally not needed. So why bother?
yeah, and I think that there are a few instances where they do that. They just paint themselves into a corner,
They really
and
do.
I think the problem is then they just hope nobody's going to notice.
It really feels like, and we've been guilty of this in the past as well. Not on our feature, we definitely weren't. But we've been guilty in the past of just shooting everything because we can.
Yeah,
It gets to a point where everything that we've got on the page, we'll fucking shoot it anyway. We got the time, we can
yeah,
work it out, we'll just shoot it, and we know we're going to cut it. I'm like, you fuck it, everybody's here, we'll shoot it anyway. Shoot everything we can.
yeah,
And it just feels like they've done that. Like it was there, so they went, yeah, shoot it. And nobody went, but that doesn't work.
yeah.
And
And I
you
mean,
don't need it.
and then again, where you've got the same people doing everything. Let's say the writer, director, producer was the same. I think he edited as well.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Okay.
so I mean, at that point, it becomes, and no, you know yourself, it's very difficult to self-edit when you know what it says on the page, you know what you shot, and you know what you want it to look like, and
Yeah,
you need somebody there to say, "Hang on, you don't need that."
it's why we always edited in pairs.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
you've got somebody say, "Well, okay, well we've got it, but do we need it? We can still cut it together if you want, but
yeah,
do we actually need it in the timeline? Do we need it in the final render?" And the answer is usually, but it's I don't know, it's the Peter Jackson problem, isn't it? There's nobody there saying, "Look, you don't need a 12-hour fucking film."
it is. But at an indie level, I'm more forgiving of that because
Yeah,
if he did write, produce, and direct, then this is his voice and his
yeah,
vision,
it's his baby, isn't that?
and that's fine. Except it's not singular. So if it is going to be your voice, your vision, then you need to understand what you're saying,
Yes,
and I don't think he does.
yeah, and I think as we said, I think it's muddled because he knows in the script he knows what he wants to say, but then whether it's somebody else has had a pass at it and gone, oh, you need to add something like this in, you need to
it,
flesh it out,
yeah,
or somebody's gone, look, this is only 60 minutes. If you try and do anything with this, it's not going to go in here because nobody everyone say, well, I'm not going to pay for a 60-minute film when I can pay the same amount for a 90-minute film.
yeah, and I feel like there might be, and this is all guesswork on our
Hmm.
part, but I feel like there might be an element of that. It was felt that it needed to be longer to be a feature because, unfortunately, listeners, if you're not 80 odd minutes,
Yeah.
nobody's going to look at you as a feature. That
Well, that's it. I mean,
unfortunately
it's that
is,
sort of grey area, isn't it? Because up to 40 minutes is a short, and 40 minutes is long for a short.
yeah, yeah,
But up to 40 minutes is technically a short, and then anything else is a feature. But if I release a 42-minute feature, I'm
yeah,
making TV.
yeah, yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
making a film.
No, and there's this desire to be taken seriously, and
Yeah,
so I think perhaps he pushed the page count probably. I think before he even got to a second or third draft, he probably pushed the page count.
yeah,
But then he's got lost in that, I think, is the thing because, and it feels to me like all of this occult stuff. It feels like he's put a great deal of work into it, but he's actually just tied himself up in knots. Like he's
yeah,
lost his story because he spent so much focus on trying to explain the world away. Like, for instance,
yeah,
bringing the Dybbuk in, and then that's why men are attracted to her. But then he realizes in an earlier draft of his script, she has a boyfriend. So how can he be a douchebag? Oh, fuck. Okay, well, then I need to go back and make him gay.
yeah,
Okay, now that fixes that. And then it feels like there's a lot of that going on
yeah.
throughout the
It's
script.
sort
Of
of
like,
it's
but earlier
it's
on
the
I said
band-aid, isn't it?
this. Yeah, so I need to go back and rather than, and look, this is really painful. And it's one of the things that we as a production team are known for. Some of our script meetings are fucking horrendous. but it's because we are absolutely unforgiving with this kind of thing. And so I'm quite comfortable saying this from a place of being through this process and doing it myself. Like, you just have to go back to square one if it's not working. You can't go back and put a band-aid over it, because you will get lost like this. The script will spiral away from you.
Yeah,
you have
and we've
to go
tried doing
all the way
both.
back to the start.
We've done it both ways. You know, we've gone back to, right, we need to rewrite, we need to overhaul. There's bits in it you can keep, that need keeping, or there's bits that will make sense, but you need to seriously reconsider this, that, and the other. Or you say, right, well, we could do that, but we need to kind of fit something over to make that work.
Yeah.
And invariably, the bits that you try and make do, the bits that you try and catch up with, they're never as good as what the rest of it is, because you're almost trying to replicate what you've done, as opposed to it sort of coming organically.
Yeah, exactly. Plastering over the cracks never works. Writing is rewriting. That's how it works, unfortunately.
That's it. I mean, I've recently edited a novel for a friend, and that was the thing I said with her, is that you can kind of fit around it, but what you actually need to do, because your structure is wrong, I won't give anything away about the story, and she'll kill me if I do, but it's the sort of the men on a mission part, the bit where they actually they find out what their quest is, didn't come in until 3/4 of the way through. And it's like, you can't do that, because at that point you've got too much to fit in and too much filler before it.
Yeah.
But to try and go back and retrofit that, I mean, again, it was 98,000 words. No, you can't go back. We'll just move that bit to there and it'll be fine. It's easier with a film script than it is with a novel, because obviously your chapters are set up differently, things. But even then, you still need to understand that, right, okay, if this goes there, then it has a knock-on effect of everything that comes after it. And it feels like with this, they've just gone, right, okay, we can shoehorn this bit in here. There's an easy bit for it to go here, because there's a natural pause anyway, so we can put in the YouTube stuff, or we can put in a bit about the Dybbuk, and it doesn't really break up the story because we've come to a natural pause. But what they've actually put in doesn't fit.
No.
And
it does
kind
some
of
of the stuff that's already there.
It just completely steps on it. So it's unfortunate, because I agree with you. I think there's a lot of good stuff in this film.
There really is. There really is. But it's just undone. It's just undone by stuff like this, and that's what it feels like. I think you hit the nail right on the head. It is the same as with that novel. It's what you need to do, and nobody likes hearing it, but it's what you need to do is start again, I'm afraid. And you can still take 99% of what you've done, but you need to go all the way back to the start
to make it work.
Like if it was Lego and you've put a piece in the wrong place, I'm afraid you've got to take the whole thing apart again.
Yeah, you've got to go back to that point where you've made the mistake.
Yeah,
and then fix it and
build up from
there.
Yeah, you have to. And if that's page one, sorry, that's page one. And that's definitely not happened here. So yeah, we get that stuff with the cookies, and then she goes to be interviewed by Grape and Gravy. And this is the set. This is the one for me where it's clearly they were like, fuck, we need an interview room in a police station. We haven't got one. What should we do? Get some chipboard, throw it up on the wall. Don't worry about painting it. We'll put a notice board up, and we'll put a wanted poster up. Fine. And a missing person over there. Fine. Here we go. That's a police interview room. Bang a table in the middle.
Job done.
I mean, fair play to them. Like,
well, that's it. No, they very clearly know what they've got, and I mean, again, like we did this. We had no budget, so you kind of just go, right, okay, we're in a space. What can we do with it?
Yeah,
and that's what
your production design has to fit
really
your
well.
budget. Yeah, and I, it's clearly something they've knocked up on the fly, but look, it feels like an interview room. It feels very sparse, but it works.
But again, I mean, I've not had a great amount of experience of police interviews rooms, but I do watch a lot of TV. And generally, there's not a lot in them anyway. They do look sparse. They do look shitty and dingy because they want to intimidate the fuck out of you to get you to say what they want. So they don't need it to be all glass and marble and polished and all the rest of it. They want it to be a fucking dingy room whereby they'll put you in there because it's out of the way. It might as well be a fucking cupboard.
Yeah, exactly.
But it does the job.
Yeah. So hats off to him for that. Then we cut back to the boyfriend in the flat, and I've just written, yes, sofa kill number one. And then very shortly after, I've written, or not, boo, fuck you.
Well, yeah, and that it was quite weird because again, I said about the boyfriend, the fact that he doesn't realize he's turning around to look at the sofa. He doesn't realize it's moved a foot forward.
Yeah, pretty fucking dumb.
Pretty fucking stupid. He must be really fucking stoned or something. Yeah. But fine, whatever. Okay, I'll go along with that. Logic gap as well. All those cookies, why is he baking? The fuck's wrong with him?
Yeah,
Eat what's there.
good point.
So we've got that, but then the sofa moves and moves and moves, and he realizes, and the sofa pushes him into the oven door. Now, as somebody who has done this repeatedly, walking into the lower door of an oven really fucking hurts.
It does, but it doesn't cut your fucking
But it
shins
doesn't
off,
cut
does
your
it?
shins off. It doesn't cut you off at the knees. So that was quite interesting. But then again, I suppose anything of that sort of weight, because recliners aren't light.
Fine.
It's
Fine.
anything pushing you into a sharp edge, it's going to do some damage. I was fine with that. That was great. The bit I was disappointed with, same as you, I thought it was going to be a sofa kill. I thought we were going to come back and there were going to be bits of him in the oven.
Yeah.
That was what I thought.
We come back and he's just on the floor, so we don't get kill number one.
Yeah.
But again, this then feels like we're back with a different version of the story now, where there's going to be a kind of murder mystery element, and we're going to have Gravy piece all of this together because the sofa hasn't killed him and he has survived, so it's left a thread dangling that the detectives could start to unpick. But then before we start to get into that, we're straight back over to the rabbi telling us all about the Dybbuk and his dad and what happened there, and we get the flashback with him, and it's like, well, look, if you want this as well, there is a way that this can work as well. I'd rather it was one or the other, but either way, if you're going to have this, whether it's going to be as well as, or if it's going to be instead of, you can't just randomly throw it in at points during the story because you need to do a scene transition, because that's actually what happens. We need to get the boyfriend back to his house, so that we can move on. So what they do is cut to the rabbi with the Dybbuk. Now, this whole exposition dump that he gives here, where he tells us what a Dybbuk is and about the sexual attraction powers and stuff like that, there are two places that you could potentially reveal this for it to work in the story, okay? It has to be mid-act 2, where the detective finally pieces it together, and either by going to see the rabbi or through the YouTube videos, or he can stumble across it in an old occult book, whatever. But he needs to stumble across what a Dybbuk is and then go, that's what I'm dealing with. Right? You either do it there, or you take the generally preferred low budget horror route. I prefer the one we've just talked about. That's more organic. But the other one that's going to work is you just front load this, where you add all that occult stuff right at the front. You front load this. This is what a Dybbuk is. Here is the history of a Dybbuk. You know, see any low budget creature feature you like, they do that. That is what Jack Frost and Jack Frost 2 did it. Krampus does it. I don't know why I'm randomly coming up with Christmas films. You can look at any creature feature, but they will do it. This is what we're dealing with. This is what it is. Here is the history. And now, bang, away we go. You as an audience member know what it is. The people in the film don't.
Yeah, because I've got to be honest, I kind of tuned out at this point.
Oh, I totally tuned out. I'm like, I do not fucking care about all I need to know is the sofa kills people. And if you want it to be a demon, fine, it's a demon. All right. But unless this has real narrative significance, which it doesn't appear to, I don't really care. I don't give a shit about this rabbi and his dad, because that never comes to pass and doesn't mean anything.
That was my other thing. On my first post-it note, it's the note up in the corner saying this dude has some daddy issues, but why?
Exactly.
Why are we supposed to care?
So again, like, why not have a prologue where his dad banishes the Dybbuks in the first place, and so now this is a generational thing that's passed down to him, you know, and now he has to deal with it. But it feels like that's what they want, but it's not.
But they haven't done the work.
There. Yeah, it's not there. And if you want extra screen time, there it is. But perhaps they couldn't afford that. I don't know. But either way, it doesn't work, and it's a shame it's here because it actively detracts from everything else.
And realistically, all you need at this point is, if you want to transfer whatever the fuck his name was from her flat to his mother's flat, is they come back from the hospital. He gets out of the car. He lives next door or 2 doors down or wherever it was, so it's not a big stretch. He gets out of the car, but he won't go back inside. He wants to go back to his mum's.
Yeah,
it's a shorter scene for a start, but it tells you why he's there, and it sets up the fact that but they're both now vulnerable.
The fact that he goes home is neither here nor there. He doesn't need a reason to go back to his home where he lives, right? He can
well,
that
was the other confusing thing, is that does he live with her or does he live with his mum?
Who
because
knows?
Again, that's kind of confusing. So I mean, but if you wanted to go down that route, a shorter scene than the one we have with the rabbi, where he says, "Look, I ain't going back in there. I'm going to stay with my mum."
Yeah, I mean,
and it sets them up because at that point they're both vulnerable. They're both on their own, and you're wondering, right? Okay, he's been attacked now. He's out of the way.
Yeah.
So now the chair's going to concentrate on her. So then there's a nice bait and switch there as well.
Yeah, I mean, but again, I don't even think we need to see him go, oh, I'm not going back in there. The chair, like, if you want to take him as a character down that route and hang around for a bit, he can be the crazy man banging on about the chair if you want. But I don't think we need that. I just think he's been attacked. The detectives have found him. We need to move him to a place now where he can be killed because the detectives have got the information that they need and they're off on their course. Just fucking do an establishing shot. It's a low budget film. I don't care. Fucking hell. I'll just show the outside of his house and cut into his bedroom.
Yeah.
Put some fucking waka waka wah music over it or whatever, like a sitcom. That was my impression of a sitcom transition. Don't know where that came from. It's fine. It's fine. This low budget film will cut you some fucking slack on that. It works. It's accepted, and that's visual language that we all have. Don't fuck around with this dibber bullshit. But anyway, that's not what happens.
I mean, I tuned out at that point.
Me too.
I think
totally.
I may have been on a really interesting level on Candy Crush or something at that point. I was just like, fuck it.
Yeah, it's bad. Any time the rabbi has to tell us about the Dybbuk, this film is at its absolute worst.
Well, that's it. Because I mean, it's at this point as well where we've met his girlfriend, but she hasn't really done anything. And it's at this point she's like, "Oh, it's like your father. You've got the gift."
She serves no purpose whatsoever. Yeah. That lady.
She doesn't. And even when Maxie's talking about it later on, she's like, "Oh, my grandfather's new girlfriend." She hasn't even got a fucking name.
No, she serves no purpose whatsoever. It's like as if she's just married to one of the crew or something. And then they're like, "Yeah, you can be in it.
Yeah,
carry on.
Why not?
Yeah, it's fine."
Grab yourself a blouse and a cup of tea and jump in.
I mean, it doesn't help that there's no need for the rabbi to be there really. But if you did want him, just have his scenes with Maxie. Like she doesn't need to be there as well.
Yeah.
I don't. Anyway, that's not what happens. We get what we get. I don't like it. But now we do get sofa kill number one, and it's fucking genius. I'm straight back. From the second we see the spring at the window.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh my god, this is incredible. Like the spring peeking up like a little fucking periscope and coming in through the window, and it's fucking amazing. Yeah. Absolutely.
The only thing that spoils it for me is when he hobbles over to the window. And the whole thing of him calling his mother and she's got her headphones on. She can't. That's all really good. That works really well. The pacing on it and the cuts is really good. The bit that spoiled it for me is he goes to the window and he sees the chair running away.
Yeah.
Now, to me, they didn't need that. It's better if there's nothing there.
Yeah, I would agree.
Because then at that point he goes back and you get the spring tapping on the window. And then he turns around and the fucking spring is there and stabs him in the foot. All this sort of shit is fine. That was the only shot they didn't need for me. Well, the only effect they didn't need was that sofa being there and moving. It's far more atmospheric if you don't have it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Then we're back to Francesca for a bit. And
oh, sorry. Before that, is this before or after the mother finds him?
No, this is before.
Okay.
We cut back again later on. So
because there's a bit there I love.
Yeah, me too. I've got a note on that. So we cut back to Francesca, and this is where the other guy breaks in and is sniffing her knickers.
Yeah, no, this didn't really translate. This is Ralph, okay? And we get
it didn't translate to me either until later on.
I didn't know where the fuck it was, and B, she then wakes up, so I didn't know if it was a dream.
Well, that's what I thought as well. And because this has been so schizophrenic to this point, between her dreaming, having the wet dream about the sofa earlier, and then all the stuff with the detectives and the stuff with the Dybbuk, I was the same. And I don't know if that's intentional or not. If it is, I don't think it's very good storytelling.
No.
If it's Ralph, then fine. But we haven't really been introduced to Ralph. No. So if this had come later on, it would have made more sense. Okay, later on when we do meet Ralph, I'm like, right, okay, he's the guy that was sniffing her knickers. But as it is, the whole thing just feels totally weird. Because even if she is dreaming it, and it is to do with the sofa, why would sofa be? Because it's not the sofa, it's a bloke.
Yeah, it's a bloke.
Now,
and
again,
it's a weird bloke who's sniffing her underwear and then jumps out a window.
Yeah. Now again,
all right. Now on this one, right? We'll come to it later. If this is real. He goes through the bathroom, jumps out the window.
Mm-hmm.
How did that not work later on?
Because maybe he landed on top of the bin instead of in the bin, which is apparently enough to seriously incapacitate a person.
Well, it wasn't so much the falling in the bin; it was a bit of fucking glass sticking out of her brain. Wasn't
it?
But that was when I was like, hang on a minute, I'm sure that happened earlier.
Yeah.
Because they make such a thing. I mean, we had it with Francesca in the shower. They make such a thing about that window behind the bath.
Yeah.
about it being open all the time. There's such a thing on that. So, yeah, I mean, this whole sequence, I've got it written down, and it was like, all right, what? Who the fuck's that? What's going on? Oh, right, it's another pointless dream.
Yeah, but again, this feels like something out of a much better film, which seems like an odd thing to say considering it's a scene of a guy sniffing knickers. But again, it comes back to that thing of, you know, just her being taken advantage of, and
Yes.
you know, the male gaze and everybody assuming they can do what they want, you know, and it is horrific, you know, and it puts you on edge. But because it's juxtaposed with the fucking Dybbuk shit,
Yeah.
then it's like, well, it doesn't make it look. Pick what you're doing here and
Yeah.
stick with it, because actually, you know, the scene itself is quite disturbing,
Yeah.
but it just doesn't make sense, so I can't follow it. The one thing I did find odd, and again, which made it feel a bit like a dream sequence to me as well, because and it almost felt like maybe the sofa was controlling this guy, which is not what happens either. But if you're going to break into someone's house and sniff their knickers, why would you leave them in the middle of the floor?
Yeah.
Surely you'd either take them with you or put them back, wouldn't
Well,
you?
yeah, and no, spoken as a true creep, obviously, but there's two ways you do this. I say you either take them away
Yeah,
or you put them back so you don't get caught, so nobody
exactly.
knows you've been there. You don't leave them in
Exactly.
the middle of the fucking floor.
No. What a fucking idiot.
And like no, in this instance, because I thought it was a pointless dream, but if it's real, if in this instance, if he's been disturbed,
Hmm.
surely he pockets them and runs.
You'd think so.
Because you don't want to leave anything incriminating behind. You don't want to leave any DNA on anything. You don't want to leave any skin, hair, whatever
Hmm.
else. So you pocket it and you fucking leg it.
Think so, wouldn't you? It's
Well,
weird.
no, maybe that's the testament to the fact that we're not creepy knicker sniffing stalkers because we
I
don't
mean,
know how it's done.
if I was, obviously I wouldn't be stupid enough to get caught because I wouldn't leave him in the middle of the floor. Um,
Right.
it's weird. It just struck me as
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah. Like
So
I really misread that scene entirely because I
so did
assumed it
I.
was a dream.
Completely, because I didn't know what the hell was going on. I, to the point where this scene is not needed at all, and
Oh,
because of
completely.
that, it actually feels quite gross. Whereas in context with the rest of the story, if it had been handled properly, I think it
Yeah.
actually would have elevated the film quite a lot. But it ends up just feeling gross and confusing me. So there's that. Then we get a really good sequence then, just creeping around the flat,
Yeah.
which is really well handled. You know, it's quite well thought out and everything. Yeah, really good. Like she gets a torchlight and she's looking around because the guy's broken in and
Yeah.
she's just seeing what's going on. Really good. Really
Yeah.
creepy. Like that a lot. But again, it doesn't feel like
It's what it follows. It just
what.
doesn't
Yeah,
work.
what is it now? What's going on? So this is a point then where we cut back to his mother and
Yeah.
she sucks his eyes up in the Hoover,
Yeah,
which
that was
loved,
amazing. I loved
loved,
that.
loved it.
Again,
More of that,
logically,
please.
they would get squished because they'd go through the gubbins and get compacted and all the rest of it. But as a visual, I thought it was really good. I thought it worked really well. And
Yeah.
it sells where we are. It's in a bigger budget film. The temptation would be that you would see this, you would see him getting murdered, you would see something come of it, and then you'd get no, it would be an automated vacuum and you get see it get sucked up straight away. They've done some work on this because they haven't got the budget to show him being murdered by the sofa.
And it's stronger for it.
It is far stronger for him.
Much stronger. Yeah.
I worked on a short for a couple of friends when I did my BA, and they did a film about a guy who's basically made a deal with the devil for some form of riches or power or else. But the consequence was that when he fucked it up, his basically he fell apart, like his skin all melted off and all the rest. And so to make that effect, and we did this, no, we did the same. It was bits of like corned beef in a blender and all this sort of shit
Yeah.
just to
Yeah.
really pulp it up and make it bloody and all that. So we did that, and we did the same. We had an eye in there for no other reason than it looked fucking weird.
Yeah.
And it again, it's better because you haven't seen what's come before it. You've just gone, okay, you assume he's dead, but then you assumed he was dead last time,
Yeah.
and
It's
then you
just a
get this bit,
signifier as well, isn't it? An
yeah,
eyeball straight away. It's like, okay, he's fucked.
yeah.
You know?
Even if he
So
survived, he's fucked.
yeah. So yeah,
But
love
it's
it.
not just the eyeball; it's the bits of skin and hair and
Yeah.
all the rest of it.
And
So
it's very funny. Like I love gross out horror, so I
yeah,
was like this had me rocking. Okay, so I've got two really important fucking questions now, okay?
yeah,
Because we've had our first death now. One of them I've already posed and we've already talked about. Like, how the fuck is Francesca not the prime suspect in this murder?
Yeah, because this is the point where she gets the text, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how the fuck is she not the prime? So that's number one.
Yeah.
Number two is that like Maxie goes over to comfort her and stuff, and she's like, "Oh, I don't want to go back to my apartment. I don't want to go back there." So she's like, "It's okay. You can come with me. We'll sort it out." How the fuck does Maxie not tell her grandfather about this?
Well, yeah, this is it. Now, this is kind of an important thing that's going on in her life or her friend's life.
How
live
would
with
you
the dude.
not tell the person you live with? Yeah.
Yeah. Even if I don't know what's going on, this clearly can't be right, but we think this chair is possessed.
Well, not even we think the chair is possessed.
No, people are dying.
Yeah,
people are fucking dying left, right. People that she knows, people that we know, are dying.
So, like later on, there's a discussion where they're trying to work out who the Dybbuk is, right? And the girlfriend actually says, "What's Maxie's friend's name? Isn't that Francesca?" And he goes, "No," and he has to phone her.
Or, yeah,
right. So how do you get to that when actually your granddaughter has been out to comfort her best friend, whose boyfriend has just been killed in mysterious circumstances and who has a history of being stalked by people?
Actually, her second boyfriend has been killed in mysterious circumstances.
Yes. How do you, as the grandfather, not remember that if you've been told and piece all this together straight away? That makes you a very, very bad fucking.
Well, you've got that, but also
detective.
Later on, and it's jumping ahead a bit, but we get a bit where the detectives are watching the YouTube videos, and so they're looking at crime scene photos, aren't they, from Federico? And that's a really popular model of chair.
Yeah.
Okay, seriously, you've got who should be your prime suspect, because two of her boyfriends are dead. A chair that looks suspiciously like the one in her living room appears in a death photo.
Yeah.
Duh.
Yep. It's mental. It's mental. But, for the grandfather side of things, at least, the only plausible explanation I could come up with, and I had to, because this was really fucking bothering me to the point where I was completely out of the story because it's such a massive logic gap. The only plausible explanation I can come up with, it seems to be what they've gone with from the discussion later on as well, is that Maxie just hasn't told him. Yeah. So what is the point in the two of them being grandfather?
What's the point of being related and living together?
Why bother? There's a lot of why bother in this film. So there's that. And then we get to the point where what's his name? Ralph comes in and starts bugging the apartment.
Yeah, so we get the bit where he's like, "Oh, if you accept my marriage proposal," hang on, who the fuck are you? We've not seen you before.
Yeah.
So we get all of that. So we get that he bugs the apartment, and then there's a line within 2 or 3 scenes where it's revealed he's her cousin.
I completely missed that. That's really bad.
I was like, I had to go back and watch it a second time because I heard it. I was like, no, they can't be talking about the same guy. I was like, seriously, he's your cousin and he's proposing marriage, and he's literally bugged her apartment, so he's watching her.
It does give me one of my absolute favorite moments of the film, of this scene with him bugging the apartment. So he goes in, messes about with it, and plants the camera, fine, and then he plants a bug on the table. And as he has his back turned to the sofa and he plants the bug, the sofa turns and just gives him the most indignant look of just like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, who the fuck are
you? Yeah.
This was the bit I was talking about earlier, when they get some real character out of the sofa.
Oh, so much character.
So you get the bit where the sofa's just in shot, so when he's planting the bug and the sofa doesn't move, but again, you get the look on the sofa's face is like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Who the fuck are you and why are you here? This is my place.
He's just so indignant.
So you get that, and then as Ralph walks past the sofa, obviously they stop. They've cut it in such a way that by the time Ralph clears the chair, it's now followed him. So it's moved through, I don't know, maybe 10, 12 degrees. So it's now watching him, and then as he walks back, it does it again. And and the look on his face, it's clearly following it, and there's almost like this. It's like the character has changed. It's kind of been recast into this sort of would-be protector at this point.
Yes.
And the thing it made me think of actually was Rubber, where they kind of reframe the character, and all of a sudden it's a lot less psychopathic and a lot more sympathetic.
Yes.
And maybe that says a bit more about me than it does about anybody else, because I'm now feeling slightly
No, I think
As
it's
slightly less apathetic towards the killer chair.
no. I think again, this is something that's played for and got because
Mm.
again, it comes into that almost Stockholm syndrome narrative of it all. Then of like, yeah,
Yeah,
this is a murderous sofa, but actually, oh, he really cares for her. Again, it draws you into that kind of that
yeah,
psychoanalysis almost of
yeah.
like toxic masculinity essentially and the attitude towards females. It's all there of like, no, she's mine. I will
Yeah,
protect her.
I
Um,
know I will protect her from anybody else who looks like they could be a threat,
yeah,
even this
exactly.
fucking douche monkey.
Yeah. So yeah, that
So
I like this scene a lot.
I
Yeah,
really enjoyed it, and so I've made a note about it and said the fact that they really do bring out the character of the chair, and they almost succeed in recasting it.
yeah, yeah. Really, really good. It does lead us to question things, and I like that.
Yeah.
Um,
So I mean it.
then we get more sort of sofa just peering out at him and like peeking around door frames and
Yeah. So
things, and
yeah, when
it's
he's no when he's in her
brilliant.
bedroom and stuff, and then the weirdest thing for me in this film, and this is saying something because it's a weird fucking film, is that he makes this arrangement out of her clothes and belongings on the bed, and he
Oh,
makes a little fucking pussy in it, and he starts fucking it. Right, so he
well,
pulls the covers over his head. Right,
yeah,
so he
I've got a
put.
note on that. Yeah,
Oh, let me go through. We'll cut it. So he
yeah, yeah,
pulls the covers over his head, and then obviously they're not showing anything. So you get this thing. He's clearly fucking them, but he's saying, "You're Francesca. You're Francesca." It's like even he's not having the fantasy. It's just he wants to put his dick in something.
yeah. It's
It's
weird, isn't it? Because again, there's this. It does really well at challenging you with things like this. Like I said, it did it with the sniffing the knickers. It did it with showing her earlier on dancing.
hmm,
It does really well, particularly, and I think I'm probably saying this as a middle-aged white male as well. It does really well of drawing you in to realize your own power,
yeah,
if you see what I mean, and to realize that, but for the fact I'm not a complete just psychopath, could go I,
yeah,
because like with this scene with the hat, like it had me in stitches, but there was a moment where like he's arranging the clothes on the bed and he's paying particular attention to this hat,
yeah,
and I'm sat there going, what the fuck is he doing? Oh,
yeah.
and
It's a
you
really
get there like
uncomfortable moment.
just a minute before him, like you get there just before him, and
Yeah,
they frame it in such a way to encourage you to make that cognitive jump yourself.
yes,
And then I've thought that
yeah,
they haven't shown me. I've thought that,
yeah.
even though
That's
they've
that.
led me down that path.
That's it. And I mean, again, coming back to what we were talking about earlier on about some of the commentary on it, this entire act where he's telling this pile of inanimate objects that he's put his dick in, you're Francesca. It's like the woman doesn't even have to be there. The woman is insignificant.
No,
I
yeah,
just want to stick my dick in something. And
exactly.
again, there's a really powerful comment earlier, the
They
same as we were talking about
really,
earlier on.
yeah,
There's stuff like this that they really stick the landing on,
they do, and
and it's so frustrating.
I cannot believe it's accidental either
No,
because
no,
it's
no.
so
This,
well
this.
done.
I mean, this is clearly what what this film is about. This is what they're talking about. It's the male gaze. It's the attitude towards women.
Yeah,
It's the normalization of violence and the sort of the self blaming. It's all this sort of stuff. And there's no way this is accidental. This
no,
is
and
all played for and got completely. It's just it's it's shat on by the other stuff that they've added in,
it is,
or
and
it
it's
feels
just
like they've added in.
yeah, and it is because it's a shame because I say things like that then where it's challenged me in a way. It really has
Hmm.
challenged me, okay, because it's made me think about something that I've thought myself. All right, so it has challenged my belief system and my knowledge of myself even because that is of course not something I would ever think about doing, but I was able to make the cognitive jump.
Hmm.
So
But as you say, you're just like a fraction of a second before him.
yeah, so that's what I'm saying. I was able to make that jump. So it's challenging me, which is great. I think that's really, really good
Hmm.
when any art can challenge the consumer like that. But then they also manage to just go, it's okay, don't worry about it. We're gonna make it fucking funny.
Yeah,
All right. And again, that tension, release, and that is the key to horror. And it lets you go, yeah, that was nearly really fucking uncomfortable, but I can laugh about it now because
yeah,
you've pushed it over the top and made it ridiculous.
yeah.
And that's
And
been
then he
done
gets
on
murdered by an iron.
purpose. Yeah. And that
Yeah.
has been done on purpose. And it's really skillfully done.
Yes.
But then we get all the other stupid shit. It's so annoying.
Yeah, it is really frustrating, and like even like to a point where even this particular death, because everything else the chair has done has been so over the top and so drastic and so graphic, even though we
Yeah.
haven't seen it. It's clearly being relevant. The putting the spring in his foot through the plaster cast and all. So we've had all of this stuff, and then we get a shot from underneath the bed where the bed springs are moving, and then we see this iron go up, and we hear a thunk, and then the iron comes up. The iron hasn't got any blood on it because obviously he's under a cover, so he's not going to see anything. But then we just see this iron fall to the ground.
Yeah.
And it's so anticlimactic.
Yeah,
No pun intended.
Yeah.
But it's just like, oh, is that it? Now, is that how he dies? That's how he meets his end. And at this point, he's probably the most reprehensible of all the characters we've met.
Easily, yeah.
So
by quite some
we
margin.
really want to see him get his.
Yeah, definitely.
And actually, we just get a bit of a noise, and that's it.
Yeah.
So I mean, and again, this may be intentional, there may be a commentary in there, but this entire dissatisfaction of the fact that it's over so quickly and it means nothing because we don't. It's just like, all right, great. I don't know. That may be intentional. That may have been played for, but it's just so dissatisfying.
Yeah, I would agree.
Unsatisfying. In that context, unsatisfying.
Yeah,
they both work.
I mean,
I
went with it. It's fine,
yeah.
But yeah, you're right. There could be more made of it.
Yeah,
but then
the problem
part
I
of
have
that may
with
be
it,
budgetary.
maybe, and the same as we talked about with the boyfriend being killed as well.
Yeah.
The fat movie, but the thing that annoyed me most with it is that we then come in. So we get this. We cut back to Francesca and Maxi. They're in a motel because obviously now it's clearly not safe to be where they are because somebody has now killed her boyfriend and her ex-boyfriend, and clearly it's not her. So they're in a motel, and we get this bit where they're talking about she needs to go back and get her some clothes and her laptop and all the rest of it, and Francesca's response is, "Make sure the chair's okay."
Yeah, she's suddenly gone out of her mind, and it's come out of nowhere because she's babbling as well.
Yeah, so
that
really threw me. So we get that, and then we get this thing where Maxie leaves again, jumps in the car, drives off.
Oh, before that happens though, so I'm glad you picked up on that as well, because the nonsensical babbling came out of nowhere, and because we had all the Dybbuk stuff way earlier now instead of now.
Now it makes sense.
We're like, what the fuck? Why is she babbling? And we know why, but it doesn't quite work because it's too far removed. But what really got me here was the discussion between the two of them, where you get this weird cut where she says, no, it's too dangerous, and then cut to her going anyway. The very next.
Well, this is my next note, because I've got the bit about her saying, check the recliner's okay, as you do, because clearly the recliner is a thing. She's had it for 2 fucking days.
Yeah.
So that really grated, and so the babbling and all the rest of it. But then Max says, "Oh, keep my laptop. I'll go and get your stuff." Have you never seen a horror movie before, you stupid bitch?
I know. That's what I'm saying. And the whole thing of it's too dangerous, go anyway. And it's like, look, you're better. Even being called Killer Sofa, this film has already shown us that it's smarter than this.
Yes.
Way smarter than this. So that felt odd.
Yeah, so that didn't work. But then, so you get, I mean, the bit where she goes, and I don't know if we jump ahead because my notes aren't that comprehensive, but she goes to the apartment, she lets herself in, and
steps on the noisiest clothes peg in the world.
Well, yeah, so she's hearing all the noises. She steps on this clothes peg. But the bit that cheapens Ralph's death is the fact you now have the sofa acting like a person. The sofa is trying to dispose of a body.
I liked it. It
looked really funny.
I thought it
worked really well, but from a horror point of view, it's not needed. And I think that was the thing, is that you're far better off. For me personally, you're far better off. She comes in, she steps on the peg, makes a noise, and then all of a sudden she's alerted something, but you don't have to see what's going on, because then you get the whole bit with her going through the bathroom and all the rest of it, mimicking what he did earlier on. But the thing of because the way he's trying to handle the body, and it goes on for so long, it's almost comic. It steps on the moment.
It's being played for laughs.
Yeah, but it steps on the moment. The whole point of this is you're trying to build tension. And in the middle
I don't know. I think they want the laugh here.
I definitely think they want the laugh, but I think it's misplaced. I think it's mistimed. I don't think it works to that extent, because you're trying to build this tension where you do have this sort of slight swell in music and the rapid cuts and the really close shots of her face and stuff like that, and cutting back and forth. They're trying to build tension, but then in the middle of it, they put in a sequence which is probably 5 seconds too long of the chair trying to pick up a body and chuck it out the window.
I fucking loved it. I adored that sequence. Again, in absolute stitches, reminded me very much of Rubber, which you've already spoke about.
Yeah.
What it also did was set me on a thought path that I think it had kind of been just kicking around in the back of my brain anyway, but I'd been wrong-footed by the Dybbuk stuff. As it turns out, I wasn't wrong-footed by the Dybbuk stuff. But I was thinking at this point, maybe I'm wrong-footed. Set me on this thought process of maybe there's a bit more going on with this sofa.
Yeah, maybe it's not just a possessed sofa.
Which they pay off at the end, and I think, would honest to God, if that had been it, if it had ended at that point and you'd had all this stuff in it as well, I'd be like 5 stars. Everybody watch this fucking film. It's incredible.
Yeah. Right? I agree with that. Yeah.
But so it sets me on that path as well. So as much as I'm laughing, it is also, I think, very effective in slightly seeding something that's going to come later, which I still am not sure that might have been their intention. And then once they started adding all this Dybbuk stuff on, they were like, oh shit, we can't, like, that might have been the original ending.
Possibly.
And they were like, but it's quarter of an hour too short. What do we do?
That's possible. And I mean, I'll agree with that. I think that from that perspective, yes, it does work. And I've made a note of a theory I had round about 2 or 3 minutes from now. But yes, I mean, that was that was an interesting point. And said that where it goes, I can see that, but because of the where it sat in the sequence, I thought it didn't fit.
Yeah, you didn't like it. I did. I agree to disagree.
Don't get me wrong. I did like the sequence. I just thought it didn't fit where it was.
I know, it's fucking hilarious. Yeah. Loved it. What I didn't like is the fucking...
We skipped a bit with where Grape throws herself a gravy.
Yes.
And he just completely
just
rebuffs
turns it down. Yeah.
And again, it's kind of not really said, but there's a bit where he's doing fucking push-ups or something. I think it's slightly before this, and he's got a picture of Francesca.
I think, and he's got a picture of Francesca.
So that again, that kind of feeds into this whole thing of all men are obsessed with her, and that worked really well. I thought that was really good.
It did, yeah. It makes him a more interesting character as well, because now we don't know if we can fully trust him.
Well, this is it. So that was really good. I thought that was really good. But then there's some really awesome police work that follows that, where, as I said earlier on, they comment on the fact the chair in the murder pictures is really similar to the one that she has. Yeah. And then they do nothing about it.
Nothing, yeah.
Oh, it's a really popular model of chair.
Yeah.
So that's a really popular model of knife that's sticking out of your back.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's fine. Doesn't really do, but yeah, you're right. It's pretty fucking dumb.
So then we get Maxie going to the apartment.
The bit that annoyed me the most, and my biggest fucking issue with the whole film, actually, like, you know, like I took issue with this to the level that you take issue with most fucking things in terms of internal logic. Like, she's creeping around the apartment, like, and the couch is getting rid of the body. Like, have you ever stood on a clothes peg?
Yeah.
They're not fucking noisy. They make
They're
tiny
not fucking
little
noisy,
snap.
But also, they generally tend to be close to either the washing machine or the washing line.
Yeah.
Not like, in the bedroom.
No way is this loud. Like, there's been a fucking murder or an attempted murder. Why not have some broken glass or something on the floor?
Well, yeah.
That she
I thought I had a peg in my drawer, but I haven't got one.
Yeah. It doesn't make that much. What a ridiculous... It's almost like they showed up on set and they were like, well, hang on a minute. How does he do that? What one guy, his shirt's a little bit too big and we've been pegging it. So
well, I'm not being funny. We know this firsthand. Pegs don't live on floors, they live on Rosa. But it's one of those where you say, right, okay, well, it could be broken glass from a struggle, or he's left the iron on the floor. She could stub a toe on that, for fuck's sake.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
Something you've already set up. You've already done the work for that. This peg comes out of nowhere. But then the other thing that gets me, right, she steps on this peg and immediately she's like, oh, fuck, I've made a noise. Why doesn't she go out the front fucking door?
Instead of taking a nosedive out the window, which, I mean, we never find out. It's never said to us that she's actually a fucking Olympic gold medal diver. Because, like, to actually manage to land head first in a tiny wheelie bin after diving out the window is pretty fucking spectacular. To land precisely on your head.
Oh, yeah, you're talking sixes there immediately.
Yeah. That's pretty fucking spectacular. Most people are going to hit the bin, go flying over it, probably do an ankle, and then
if not break a neck. But the other thing that got me right with that, who leaves their bin open?
Well, yeah, there's that and all.
Who leaves the fucking wheelie bin open in the first place?
There's that and all in there.
So I mean, you've got that. But yeah, why she went into the bathroom, locked the door, And he's trying to, no, he's trying to, again, you get a really nice nod to Jurassic Park where the door handle starts moving and shit like that.
Yeah.
Really nice, really well done. But why doesn't she go out the front door and lock it?
Fuck knows, because they needed a convenient way. Again, this is fixing problems in the story. They needed a convenient way to remove her because she's seen the chair now.
Yes.
And she hasn't told the grandfather, but we need the scene of the grandfather piecing everything together. Now, if the Dybbuk stuff wasn't there, that wouldn't matter. She could have gone out the window and fucking died. Because let's face it, that bin is an insert shot. So
yeah,
for all we know, the original idea could have been to fucking kill her or something. I don't know. But they needed her out the way so that the grandfather can now lay out his plan without speaking to her. And we can have this whole thing about what's her friend's name? Isn't it Francesca? And then there's this horrible protruded sequence of them putting the sequence of events together. And then he gets his plan and he lays his plan out. And thank God he manages to illustrate his plan, because there is no way that I could keep up with it.
No, I know.
It's so complex.
It's complex, but what it boils down to is you make a box, you put the thing in the box, you set the box on fire.
It's literally that.
but the way it's written,
draw that down to explain it to us.
Yeah, because the way it's written is like, say, what the fuck are you talking about?
But she literally then does boil his plan down into get a box, put it in the box,
set the box on fire.
Yeah. But he has to draw all of that out for it. Absolutely ridiculous.
So we have skipped a little bit, actually, I think. I might be wrong, but I think we have. So we get the bit where she falls in the bin. How can the chair now talk through pipes?
Well, they don't explain that at all. This is another one of those Dybbuk things, isn't it? Because it's not the chair talking to her, because she's gone fucking crazy. It's now psychically.
Well, this is it, because it's talking through the pipes. But if it's talking through pipes, can anybody on the pipes in between here? Because they're not in the next fucking room.
But it's not actually talking through the pipe.
Yeah.
It's communicating with her, because it talks through something else later on as well. I can't remember what it is, but
I think it talks through the crease at one point, doesn't it?
I think it does. Yeah. It just she thinks it's coming from the pipes.
Yeah. So you've got that, and then we saw it very early on. She took a single pill from a pill bottle.
Yes.
And now she's throwing them back like they're fucking smarties. So my thing at this point is, right, is she psychotic? Is this some fucking Alice in Wonderland shit, or like Return to Oz?
Yeah.
Is that are we now going to find out actually this is all in her fucking head?
Yeah, which again, I'd have been all right.
So, again, I'd have gone with that. I could have lived with that, because the payoff would have been different, but I could have lived with that. Because they had seeded it. They had her taking a single pill earlier on. I think it was when the boyfriend came back from his night out or whatever. No. So we had that. And then like I said, she had a traumatic couple of days, and now all of a sudden she's throwing them back like Smarties. So I would have gone with that. But again, the only time this reference is the two detectives come in, and what are they? Oh, I've been taking them for years. It's fine. Well, what are they? What do they do? What are they for?
Yeah. Again, so it's information that we don't need, isn't it?
That's it. If it's there, we need to know what it's for. Yeah. If you don't need it, don't show it.
Like if you're gonna throw all of these red herrings in, then at least have them conclude. Because what we've actually got is like there's the version of events that I discussed just a few minutes ago. There's this version of events where it could be pills. There's a version of events where it could be the Dybbuk.
Yeah.
And it's all fine. Like I'm ragging on the Dybbuk story. If it was the Dybbuk story and they committed to it, I don't have a problem with it. They just need to commit to it and perhaps do a bit of restructuring and jiggling around. But it's the fact that the Dybbuk story so obviously doesn't fit with some of the rest of the stuff that's here.
Yeah, that's the problem.
But yeah, it's fucking weird. But we do get two of my favorite moments in the entire film. For the next 5-10 minutes, this film is firing on all cylinders for me, and I'm so in. Like I said, I would have been straight on the message to you as soon as I finished, being like, just don't wait, watch it now. This is incredible. 5 stars, double thumbs up, like definite. Unfortunately, they screw the pooch at the end, but we get this amazing run of scenes here. First and foremost, the best detectives in the world, because they've seen the chair in the video, managed to track the guy down and get him in for questioning. And we have just the best dialogue exchange I've heard in ages, where they say, "Were you at the house?" And he says, "Yes." And they say, "What were you doing there?" And he looks at them dead straight faced and just says, "He asked me to cut his legs off."
Yeah.
And I spat beer.
That again. It's one of those, because it feels like it should be bad, and some of the dialogue in this film is awful. And this feels like it should fit that category, but actually, it's he plays it so straight. He's like,
Genius.
he asked
It's
me to cut his legs off.
so
You know,
funny.
no, he signed a contract. All
Yeah.
this, and it's such a fucking stupid thing. You go,
So
yeah, you know
funny.
what? I'll buy that. I mean,
It's
there was a
so
scene.
dumb, it's clever, isn't it? It's
That's
literally
it.
like they're trying to get this information to us, and it's like they thought, how are we going to do this? How can we possibly come up with a reason where it's okay for him to go there and cut his legs off? And they're going, do you know what? Don't.
He asked
Just
me
have
to.
it. Yeah, just it's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
They did really well. The bit I didn't like was where so we have the bit where she's popping the pills, and then I don't know if it's immediately after or a couple of scenes later, but she runs to a cliff top.
She's about to top herself. Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, hang on, where's that come from?
Yeah, it did feel a bit odd.
Because I mean, even if they are antidepressants or whatever else, even though, yes, she's having a really torrid time. I get that. But nothing about her character at any point has suggested she's going to throw herself off a fucking cliff.
No, I think again what we've got here is too much interfering shit that hasn't allowed us to possibly go on a bit of a journey with her, which is actually this is all my fault.
Yeah,
as we said right back
I
at the start. You know,
they're
all obsessed with me, and now they're dead.
Now
and
people are dying because
it's
of
my
me.
fault. Yeah,
You know,
even though it's not her fault, and she can't help it.
I'm the common link. I'm the thing. It must be because of me.
Yeah, and again, it's
especially if you want to trace this back to her being on pills, so she's paranoid or she's depressed or anything else.
It's not even that.
It puts a suggestion there which says, right, okay, this is my fault. The way to end this is if I end myself.
I kill myself. Yeah, but it's not even without the pills. It goes all the way back to that first sequence that we talked about, where we've got the societal male gaze, you know, and the attitude, unfortunately, that is still pervasive towards rape in our culture as well, which is that it is the woman's fault. She's a woman, so it's her fault.
Yeah, she shouldn't have been there. If she wasn't there, she wouldn't have been raped. If she wasn't wearing a short skirt, she wouldn't be. If she wasn't drunk, she wouldn't have been raped. And all this stuff, which actually it's fuck all to do with it. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, it's if they wanted to go for that, again, same with most of the stuff they've done in this film. If they want to double down on that and say, right, this is what we're doing, I'm on board. I can live with that. Even the scene at the cliff top is really clunky as well. It's the way it's shot, just the cuts don't seem to work. They bug me a little bit. But if that's what you want to go for, fine, go for it. Pin your colours to the mast. This is the story we're telling, and this is the point we're at. Yeah. Unfortunately, as you said, there are too many other things coming in that just detract us from it, and they haven't let us go to that point with her where actually she's at the fucking end of a rope.
Yeah.
Because she seems okay. She's a bit upset and a bit freaked out. At no point does she seem so fucking distraught that she's in peril herself. It's like, oh right, yeah, okay, shit, this is weird. No, that can't be right. That can't be happening. Check the chair for me. None of it makes sense because we don't have enough time with her. We have too many bits stuck in the middle.
Yeah, agreed. There is a much better version of this story, and it's actually all here if you just remove the bits in the middle. Like, we still have to make a bit of a jump to get here with it, but I feel like without all of the interfering stuff, that's more of a through line that you're going to see.
But this is the thing: any of the stories they've got in this film, because they've tried to sort of shoehorn 4 storylines in. If they pick one, and followed it through, any one of them, even the Dybbuk, if they follow it through from start to finish, it works.
Agreed. Totally agreed. Yeah.
But you don't have enough of a film.
No.
That's the problem, I think, is they've gone, it's still too short. There's not enough in it. We're not going to get we're not going to get out of it what we want to get out of it. So you shoehorn stuff in and you go, right, okay, well, we can put this story about the Dybbuk in. We can put this stuff about pills, or we can put this stuff about her topping herself. We can put this stuff about demons, whatever we want to do, we can put it in. But they just step on everything else they're trying to do, and because of that, you just think, well, it's kind of film light. They'd be better off if they want to do that, making a fucking mini series out of it and doing it for doing 3 hours.
Yeah,
and give each story strand enough time to sort of percolate.
Yeah, I mean, I think they just flat out don't need all the story strands. They just need to pick one and go with it. And if it's going to be the Dybbuk one, that does work, but it needs more work going into it. Yeah, and they need to understand what it is.
Whichever one they would choose, they'd have to do more work to make it.
I don't think they do. I think there is one story here that you can remove all the interfering stuff from, and it is this one about the male gaze, and it is the one that ends with the reveal in the apartment shortly. that's actually a very effective, nasty little 60, 70-minute horror. And it would be a nasty little horror because it would end on a downer as well.
Yeah.
We're talking Human Centipede level in some ways. Just a nasty, nasty little horror. And then they kind of get lost, which is a shame.
I think it comes back to what we were talking about earlier about them trying to fit in more bits and trying to flesh
Definitely.
it out. Because, there's a very natural end point, and then another very natural end point, and then a third.
Yeah.
And then the actual end.
Yeah. So, but we're not there yet, and we're still in stuff which I'm really loving. So we've had that discussion. Yeah, she goes to the cliff, and then, they put the plan together.
Yeah.
And she goes to the apartment. She's gonna go and fucking take out the Dybbuk. She's gonna get the Dybbuk, put it in the box. She's gonna burn the box. And this is up there with some of my favorite fucking showdowns in cinema. This where she just walks in and it's like as if he's a fucking naughty dog or something. It's just goes and dumps the box on the floor, and she's like, "Get in the box." And he's just looking at her, and she's like, "Get in the box." And they have this bit of a showdown. He's being stubborn. He's not going to do it. And then it culminates in the funniest moment of the film for me. I've got a page of notes here where I've been scribbling stuff, and it gets halfway down, and all you can see is where I've written in big block caps, ha 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 ha. He's blown the fucking matches out.
Yeah, I've got a couple of bits before that. So so before we get to this, they try and pin it all together. So you've got the stuff about Valerie. So now we know who Valerie is, and Gerard, and then we get a bit of the story about them, this backstory, this thing about obsessive devotion that now pays off because they've kind of explained it. So that works fine. And at this point, I came up with my theory, which is, well, it's clearly Federico. He's in the chair. His blood got into it when he was killed. He's now the chair. That was my working theory. Yeah. Not that far away.
No, you're not. That's kind of where I thought. So
that's kind of what I thought it was. Yeah. Then you get this thing. At this point, you think, right, okay, now we should be building to our showdown. But they pull back, and you get Grape going off to Ralph's boss or whoever he is, and they find out about the spy cams. Mm-hmm. So, and again, completely not in keeping with the tone and the pace of where we are. The guy who owns the company is really excited about these spy cams.
Yeah, that was weird, wasn't it? He's just watching them.
But it's not even as if, oh fuck, he's watching this girl.
Yeah.
Where is this? What's going on? He's kid. He's a fucking schoolboy.
Yeah.
You almost think he's going to be fucking her clothes in a minute. It was just really. It's just the response didn't feel right.
Yeah, and it gets even weirder later on where he's watching the showdown between them and doesn't phone anybody.
Yeah.
It's hang on, somebody's going to die here. The very best outcome you have here is she's about to torch your fucking apartment.
I was going to say the very best thing that can happen is she burns the fucking place down. So I mean I thought that was really weird. And then we go back. So he's watching her. He's watching the showdown. She gets more fucking petrol on herself than she does anywhere else.
She does.
It's clear this is somebody who's never poured a petrol out of a fucking can before.
But then weirdly, for all it's funny, it starts off and it's funny, and we've had the escalation of as you say, you get the backstory with who she is and with Gerard and the Dybbuk and the sort of these star-crossed lovers, but actually, they're evil spirits and they're kind of like succubi, I guess, and that's why everybody's attracted to them. So we understand what's going on and we start to escalate, and she's going in for the showdown. And we get the tension build up, and her performance is excellent here. She's really going for it. She leaves it all
this is
on
probably
the
first
screen,
time where I've actually rooted for her. I've not minded her all the way through, but this is the first time
she's going for it.
You know what? Fucking have it.
She's grown into a heroine here. She's going in and she's like, get in a fucking box, and she's tipping the petrol everywhere, and we're on her side, and everything's happening up, the tension's happening up, and then we get the reveal, and it is fucking horrifying.
Yeah.
I made the comparison to Human Centipede, and that's where it lies for me. It is that horrifying when you see the fucking, when they put a couple of bullets in it and the fucking stands up and the top of the fucking chair drops down, and he's
the face is missing
into the chair, and that's why he's had his legs cut off. And
again, the way you put the interview with the guy and the way they cross-cut that works really well. It's a really good reveal.
Fucking amazing filmmaking. It's spot on. And if you had just ended here, I don't even want to see how this resolves. I want to see.
The dude is the chair.
It's fucking Tusk, basically, isn't it? It's like you spend the whole film just waiting, and then you're like, oh my fucking god.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And
He's
like,
the
even
wolf.
if you think of the
You
end
know?
of Tusk and like the reveal you get there, it's only probably 2 or 3 minutes. That is too long.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you look at it here, the
It's
reveal of
perfect.
he's the chair and Gravy shoots it in the head.
Yeah, and
Done.
it makes perfect sense. We get this, it puts a bow on everything but leaves enough outstanding. If you still Even if you still want the Dybbuk shit, leaves enough there of like, well, you know, you can have a post credits where all of a sudden now fucking Gravy's the Dybbuk or whatever, and it's
Well,
jumped.
this is it, and
Right?
this is
There's
what I'm
ways to
saying.
do this.
If you use this ending, this thing is perfectly poised for a sequel.
Yeah.
It'd be a
Because
shit sequel, but it's
yeah,
perfectly poised for it.
because you can still like my preferred version of this is that he is just an unbalanced stalker. All
Yeah,
right, and that is the most horrific version of this. He's completely unbalanced to the
yeah,
point where he's cut his own legs off, sewn
yeah,
himself into a chair, and he's a
yeah.
nasty little
At
paedophile.
this point, there's
Fucking
nothing.
pervert. Sorry.
Yeah, there's nothing supernatural. There's nothing otherworldly or ghostly or anything
No,
else. And
he's just a
and
fucking
if you look,
pervert.
you look back at Psycho as a prime example. The
Yeah,
whole thing is that he's just a dude.
yeah, yeah.
He's just
That's
a dude, and he's pushing the envelope of what it means to be a person. He's pushing the boundaries of pleasure and of acceptable behavior and all this sort of stuff. But he is just a fucking dude, and all the voodoo, all the occult, all that sort of stuff is irrelevant. They're all red herrings.
yeah,
That makes this terrifying.
it does, and the skill in executing that, just like it is in Psycho as well, but even more so here in Psycho, the skill in that is that all the way through we have Mother to blame, and we're
Yes.
on Norman's side. And then when the reveal happens, you realize that you've been complicit, and it's horrifying because you've rooted for Norman. And
Yeah.
it's the same thing here because all the way through, it's actually like you say, they get to a point where you're almost seeing the chair as a protector, right? And that's
Yeah.
not healthy, but you can see that, and they draw you in and put you a few steps in front of people, like, you know, we had the discussion about, well, how we'd actually go about sniffing pants, and well, what was he going to do with the pillow, and they do great work to draw you into that.
Yeah.
And so, but at the same time, as I said all the way back at the start, what's really handy with horror is you're always able to play that and then remove it, because you can literally demonize a thing. You
Yeah.
can say, but it's fine because that chair is evil because it's a demon, so it's fine. You wouldn't do these things. No, of course
Yeah.
you wouldn't. He's an evil demon. But then he reveals himself to actually be a person, and you instantly whip out the safety rug.
Yeah.
And you're on your fucking back. Your whole world is upside down because you're just like, oh, fuck. No,
Yeah. I
hang on.
read that wrong. I got the wrong guy.
Not only did I read it wrong and get the wrong guy, I thought all that stuff as well. Fuck. What does that make me? What's society like? That's the genius of something like this. That's the genius of really holding an uncomfortable mirror up to the audience. And this nearly does it.
Yeah.
And if it had done it, I would absolutely be calling this one of the fucking best films I've seen all year. But they overshoot the fucking ending massively.
Yeah. And that's my problem. They fucked the end about 3 times. That was my problem. This is where this ends. This if you turn off, if you do a Phoebe and say, oh, Ella ends when dog's still happy and not rabid. I'm okay with this. I'm on board. And as you said, this is a fucking perfect movie. I'm quite happy with its end. It's not been perfectly executed, but it tells the story it needs to tell. And actually, it's made me think. It's made me really uncomfortable. And now I'm going, fuck.
And it's also like Tusk and like Human Centipede. It's also then becomes that film where you're like, have you seen the film where the guy's the chair?
Yeah.
But that's lost because the guy isn't the chair. The Dybbuk is the chair. Now, where it gets where it lost me instantly, right? Because I'm on a high from that. And then I'm still thinking about how fucking brilliant this is and having all of these conflicting fucking thoughts. And then she runs into the bathroom and the Dybbuk comes out of nowhere.
Well, yeah, that was my thing, because I wasn't entirely sure what it was that got her in the first place.
Well, neither am I. I'm assuming it's
because
it's
at this
Dybbuk.
point I'm
what is
thinking
it? Veronica, Valerie.
No, I'm thinking Valerie. Because I was until that point I'm thinking, right, well, dude in the chair, or the chair was clearly Gerard and she's Valerie.
Yes. Now that's
the way it's been sold
us all along.
That's what we've had all the way through. So all of a sudden, hang on, what the fuck was that? Was that a ghost?
Exactly.
Is that a demon? Is that the demon? Where did that come from?
Because if this thing that gets her is actually Valerie, then
who was she all the way through?
Exactly. It doesn't make
apart
any
from
sense.
she's the granddaughter of the original one who cut her own throat, but then if she was the demon to begin with, how was it not passed down the line? It doesn't work.
Makes no sense whatsoever. And again, I said all the way back at the start, I don't think they understand their own logic and their own world.
No.
And this really feels like they've gone, hang on, it's not long enough. What do we do? Okay, let's make her a Dybbuk.
Yeah.
The Dybbuk gets her here. And then they've worked backwards, as we were talking about. But what they haven't done is fix these little inconsistencies then. Because this makes no sense.
Yeah, the other thing that did drive me up the wall as well is the whole soul sucking thing. That's some proper MS Paint fucking animation.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
That's like me level animation.
They're low budget, so let them go with it, you know. But yeah, you'd be better off having nothing.
Actually, you're better off just doing it with light.
Yeah. So
than trying to animate something. Yeah. But yeah, so that bugged me. But yeah, the whole thing of who that was, what that was that grabbed her, that bugged me. Then you get Maxie coming out with a fucking glass in her head.
Yeah. Okay, fine. They just had to get rid of her. Yeah, I'm glad she's alive.
Yeah, so. I mean, they'd be better off finding her in the bin dead. Yeah, would have made more sense.
So this is how confused I got, though. Like that happens, right? But we've had the discussion about the Dybbuk getting her, and I've gone, well, who the fuck is that then? I thought she was Valerie.
Yes.
So I'm starting to piece this together. So yeah, I don't know if you went to the same place, but then I've then gone to the place of, okay, then. So that thing that got her is the original Dybbuk, and she's still Valerie, and now she has both Dybbuks in her. So I've gone, okay, fine. But if that's what it is, then all of this should be getting revealed to us after the fact, whilst the detectives and Max are putting all of this together and realizing what's gone on. It needs to be a retroactive thing, and they need to be like, oh fuck, Act 3, we need to go and kill our fucking best friend.
Yes.
Right? That if you're going to do this, that's how that works. But it's not even that, because the original Dybbuk is still in the fucking sofa.
Well, yeah, this is it. I mean, you get the whole thing. So it's effectively like a coda. So it's after the fact. Her and Gravy are on a date, obviously, because again, he's that fucking stupid. He hasn't realized that she would be prime suspect. Take all the demon shit aside, she is the link between all the dead people. If she's not a suspect, then she's certainly a person of interest, because there has to be something about her that people are killing over. So there needs to be some sort of closure to that. We don't get that. We get this date, and then we then get the bit with the tea where she's feeding feeding him the poison tea and all that. So that works really well. Then Grape turns up for some fucking reason, just so they can stab her in the back.
Yep.
And suck her soul. And then you get Maxie turning up, and there's a really nice shot of Francesca and Gravy leaving the building. There's a really real sort of Bonnie and Clyde energy to it. They're leaving arm in arm. They're fucking happy. They're jovial, and they're off to kill some people.
Yeah. So
that works really well. It's a really nice shot. Obviously, they've redesigned her at this point as well, because now also she's all in black with a bright red lipstick. They've reframed her as well. So that works really well. Then Maxie goes inside, and then you get the reveal where Grape's soul is in the sofa, and you see her disappearing in the eye, which again, it's a really nice way to finish. Works really well. It's just a shame the last 5 minutes have gone to shit.
As you say, it's not a bad ending, either of them. Them walking away, or the soul going into the sofa. The problem is, there are so many plot inconsistencies with it, because it's like, right, who is the original Dybbuk and who is she? That's important to know, okay?
Yes.
So I feel like what we've got to, and none of this is explained, so I've had to put this together myself.
Yeah.
I feel like that she is not actually a Dybbuk. She's just somebody that has a strong energy to be able to be a Dybbuk, all right? So in which case we have to ignore all the sexual attraction stuff. But that is the only way I can make this work. So I don't know, but I'll go with it, because there's a version of this where that's not supernatural at all anyway, and I'm fine with that. So I'm going to go with that and ignore it. And I have to ignore it and take that massive, massive leap that goes against everything they've told us in order to do that. But if we take that, then Valerie jumped into her in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And the original Dybbuk remains in the chair. Okay. Then she gets Gravy around, and Valerie gets the original Dybbuk to go into Gravy, so it now has a human body.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. And then that's cemented because they take the soul of Grape.
Yeah.
Right? Fine. But then, after they've gone and we go back to the sofa and the souls are in the sofa, what's in the sofa that's eating the souls then?
Well, yeah.
because the
And
Dybbuk's not
that's the
there
point where you
anymore.
get the mouth moving as well, isn't it? Where
Yeah,
it's behind Maxie and you get
yeah,
the creases moving. So yeah, that was the thing. And this is what I meant. This is what I meant. There are 4 endings to this film, and any one of them works,
mm,
but they need to work in isolation of the others. They don't work if you have the others as well.
mm.
And I think it really confused the hell out of me because I would have gone with any one of those stories and any one of those endings,
Yeah, me too.
and I'd have been happy with any of those. But because you have them all, it's just like they didn't know what they wanted to do. So we'll chuck it all in, we'll fix it in post, we'll decide when we're cutting it which one we're going to go with, and then they went, chuck it all in, it'll be fine.
Yeah, it just doesn't hang together at all. It's a fucking gigantic mess.
It is, and it's a
Um,
shame because I said the first 65 minutes I was really enjoying it. There were bits that stuck in my throat, but I was thinking this is really well done. I don't know, it's an indie. It's yeah,
yeah,
technically there are some issues with it, but it's doing all right. And then they got to the end. I was just like, oh fuck this noise.
it is absolutely brilliant fun, and I think really, really well executed for the most part for the first 2 3/4 acts.
Mm.
And then they just completely screw the pooch, like to
Yeah,
the point where it ruined the film for me, like completely, just
yeah,
completely screwed the pooch.
yeah.
I think if I were to ever to rewatch this again, I would Phoebe it. I would literally get to reveal in the chair and go, and we're done.
Yeah,
That's the end of the film. And I'll just
that's it.
ignore all the Dybbuk stuff because it's not important anyway.
Yeah,
And I
for
wish
me,
they'd done that.
it's the Olympic gymnast who almost sticks to the landing but breaks an ankle,
Yeah,
but still manages. No, they stay on their feet, and you can just see the fucking
yeah,
tears.
yeah,
It's
you're
that.
right.
No, it's almost there.
Yeah, you're right.
And if you look at it too closely, it just kind of falls apart. But on the surface, it looks like it should work. And then you just start peeling away, and it's just they've just fucked it.
Yeah, it's like they didn't fully understand their own story. It's almost Game of Thronesian, isn't it? It's like they didn't
Yeah,
fully understand the story, and so they
they've
were
got
just
too
like,
many threads, and they're just like, we'll
yeah.
pull on this one, we'll pull on that one.
And then they wanted to be like, ta-da, she was the bad guy all along. And so,
Yeah.
no, but that doesn't work because you haven't done that work and you've taken us somewhere else with this.
Well, that's it. And there are 2 bits that we talked about it earlier on. The bit that kind of threw me a bit in terms of the red herrings was Gravy when he's doing the push-ups and he's got the picture of
Yeah.
Francesca. Because there's 2 ways of looking at it. If you wanted to look at that yeah, okay, he's a bit shady, he's a bit suspect because he's in love with her as well. He's obsessed with her as well. He's now got a picture and he's doing fucking push-ups to it. So yes, okay, he could be our bad guy. But another reading of that is that has she fucking bewitched him now?
That's the thing. Yeah,
And it could go either way. And
that.
I like the
Yeah.
ambiguity of that. I thought
So do
I
I.
thought there was a lot
Yeah.
of potential with that.
Yeah,
And yeah, they just kind of pissed it away.
They do, and I would have liked that to be left ambiguous as well. As I say, I would have liked the ending to have just ended with a reveal because I like the questions it was making me ask. I love it when I'm challenged, and it's only when you're challenged like that that you can ever truly be moved by something because you have to be challenged. You have to have your belief system challenged in order to be moved. It's as simple as that. And I was not expecting to come into a film called Killer Sofa and be asking questions about society at large and where I fit into it and what can I do to help and stop this sort of thing happening.
Yeah.
But it raised all of these questions because I could see all of these things happening and going, well, why are they doing that? This is wrong. And then I was asking questions about, well, does it happen all the time? And are there things I should be looking out for that shows this is going to happen? Because it takes you to those places.
Yeah.
And then unfortunately they just flush it all down the pan, and it's such a shame. This was almost, and I don't say this lightly because we've watched a lot of films on this podcast that I actually really like. All right. But this was almost one of the best films we've ever watched on this podcast.
Well, that's it. I mean, and the comparison to Rubber came earlier on. I know we had some mixed feelings on that when we watched it. But this has a similar feel. It's that really stupid. On the surface, it's stupid, it's pointless, it's brainless, and actually, it's just some idiot wanted to make a film and couldn't think of a monster, so they made something normal, scary. That in itself is terrifying.
Yeah.
Because that makes you think, hang on, even on the surface level, I have a couple of beers, hang on, is my chair going to eat me?
Yeah.
Beyond that, what is this film saying? And all of a sudden, you do start having those thoughts and those conversations with yourself, as we did with Rubber. So that I could see that, and I really did appreciate that about this film. There was so much in it where I thought, hang on, you know what? They're saying something here.
Yeah.
And actually, I do need to sit up and listen. And as you said earlier on, there but by the grace of God, that we could have been any one of those
Yeah.
douche canoe characters.
Yeah.
Um, people may think we are. Who knows? Um,
We're
but
really not.
We're really not.
We say some pretty fucking horrible things, but yeah, none of us are that bad.
Yeah, tongues are in cheeks. But yes, I mean, it does raise those sort of questions, and that's fine. And I agree. I think that up until the second ending, this film was more or less there. Yes, there were problems with it. No, it wasn't perfect. It wasn't as slick and as polished as something like Rubber. Certainly wasn't as expensive and as highly produced as something like Phantom Menace, which we watched and loathed.
Yeah.
But there's something to this film, and it just kind of falls away at the end because there's too much end.
Yeah, there's too much all the way through is the problem. It needs focus and clarity.
Yeah, it needs an editor to go, no, fucking strike it. We don't need it.
And that's really, really unusual for such an independent project, to be fair as well.
Yeah, because I mean, indies do tend to be a lot tighter because you're looking at, if it's on film, you haven't necessarily got the stock. If it's digital, you don't want to be having masses of tapes. You haven't got masses of time to go through it. Generally, even when it's an indie, you've got a job to go back to, so you haven't got a lot of time to work on it. So you want it to be as tight and as short as you can, so that it sells your product, but also it's not going to take 3 years of your life to actually put it together. So I mean, it is quite rare. So I mean, the fact that there's so much fat in this, there's so much that can come out, is quite unusual. But yeah, I really did think, for the most part of watching this film, that I was going to be coming to saying, you know what, this film was actually really fucking good.
Yeah, so did I. So did I.
So I mean, through the end, I mean, one thing I did, just to finish up on us, and the last couple of notes I've got, the last 3 notes, I'll read them out. So for all that, I enjoyed most of it, but they fucked the end, as we discussed. The cast is the crew, so I salute them for that, because we've been there, done it, and not slept through it.
Yeah.
And my favorite part of the credits, normally you get lots of thanks, and it says catering by Sushi and Pizza for All.
Nice.
Fucking A, good advert, absolutely well done.
Yeah.
So well done, Sushi and Pizza for All.
Nice.
But yeah, so I mean, I suppose I'll go with you first. Is it better than Mario?
Yes, it is better. It is better than Mario. It is not a good film. Ultimately, they really, really, really screwed the pooch at the end. Like, looking at it as a whole, if I'm rating out of, say, 5, I'm giving this like 2. It nearly had a 5 out of 5. It really did.
Yeah.
But they screwed the end so badly. And that there were moments throughout as well that annoyed me. And the Dybbuk thing annoyed me consistently throughout, because it didn't feel like it fit with the rest of the story and the tone. But I could kind of just let it go if it had at least made sense at the end, and then I can just read what I want to read out of it because it's in there. But instead, they completely just, again, I've used the analogy on the show before, but it's literally like someone got the script and dropped the pages when we get to the end, and they're like, fuck, I don't know, what order does it go back together? It doesn't matter, if I can stick it all back in, just film it all, it'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of my thinking as well. I agree. I think it's better than Mario. It's more entertaining than Mario, and it's like an ass hair away from being brilliant.
That's exactly it.
And I think that for me, similar scenarios. Like, they had 4 scripts and they dropped. They had the final scenes of all of them.
Yeah.
Couldn't remember which one it was. I went, you know what? We'll put them all in, and then we'll work it out later. Yeah. And they forgot that part where they had to work it out later. But yeah, no, I agree. I'd certainly say it's better than Mario. It's more entertaining than Mario, and it's a damn sight shorter as well, which helps.
I mean, that there's something to be said for that. My views on that. I love a 90-minute film. Like, if you can come in between 80 and 90 minutes, you're in my good books already, because I don't see why anything needs to take longer than 2 hours. And 90 minutes for me shows some consistent storytelling, nice and concise. But yeah, ultimately, it's, I loved Rubber, as we said, and I think Rubber is everything that this almost was.
Yeah.
This could have been standing shoulder to shoulder with it. It went for the same sort of tone. It had just as much to say. It was, I'd argue, almost as well executed. We do need to bear in mind that whilst we consider Rubber to be an indie, like Mr. Wazzo, he's not poor.
It was an indie with a budget, whereas this is what was down the back of the sofa.
Yeah, and you've got to respect them for that as well.
Yeah, it looked like it in places, it sounded like it in places, but the thing to remember is, as we said, making films is fucking hard. They've gone out, they've put this together. There's a cast and crew total of about 12. And they've gone, look, everything we've got, every penny we've got to put into this project is on the screen. You will see all of it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we've got. And they've done balls to the wall, hearts are on their sleeve, and they've produced a good film, and then some shitty endings. And that's the thing that does it for me, is the fact that we talk about indies, and some indies, people have put tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars into. This is literally like they've gone, you know what? We've got a camera on a weekend.
Yeah, and I respect the hell out of them for that.
I would rather watch that 100 times out of 100.
Yeah, and as much as I've said, they've screwed the end, and at the end of the day, this show is about being critical, so we're going to be critical. But by no means do I mean to just drag them over the coals and say you fucked that up like we did with the likes of Phantom Menace, because that was a completely different kettle of fish. These guys poured blood, sweat, and tears into this, I've no doubt. And actually, at the end of the day, they got it made, and they almost made something fucking phenomenal. Well, so they deserve a huge pat on the back.
They got it made, and they got it distributed.
Yes, and that's a very difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
So fair play to them.
Yeah, hats off to them, absolutely. And I think that's probably that's probably the most impressive thing about the whole thing, is that they got it written, they got it planned, they got it produced, and they got it out there. Yeah. And we know how hard that is. So yeah, absolutely, hats off to them. That said, if you have seen it, listeners, or if you go out and watch it on the back of this, it is worth the $3.50 on Amazon. I will say that.
100%. Yeah,
I wouldn't begrudge them that. So I mean, it's absolutely worth it. Let us know what you think. If you'd seen it before and it was something that's in the back of your mind as a festering turd that you'd never want to revisit again, let us know why. Let us know what you think of it. This type of film is why we do this show. We get to find these nuggets and these absolute gems of horseshit. But they entertain us, and they do it in the right way. So yeah, let us know what you think. On Twitter at ddpodcastnet. You can go to our website, ddpodcast.net, where you can also find our previous episodes, including Rubber, which we've mentioned about 50 times. Or you can, wherever you get your podcast from, be it iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher. Like, share, subscribe, leave a message back as best we can. Go to iTunes, join Uganda, and get a rating up elsewhere as well. And that would be great.
If you're some of our listeners in Uganda, please get in touch.
Yeah,
reach out. I genuinely don't think I've ever spoken to somebody from Uganda. So please get in touch. Have I?
Yeah. So Eddie, whose car we borrowed for double.
Oh right, was he from Uganda? Yeah, okay, so I have. Yeah. All right, forget it then. I'm not bothered.
But yeah, absolutely. Get in touch. Let us know. Let us know what you're thinking. But until next time.
See you later.